you start to hear conversations in the music, taste tradition in the food, and see history in the walls. But it's the people at the heart of it all, a blend of indigenous and global roots, equal parts resilient and warm. Today, with 15 turns and 100 laps, there is still much more to learn about this place. For the first time in history, the Cup Series races in Mexico City.
Thank you to Daniel Suarez, the hometown hero, for getting us ready. He's looking to sweep the weekend coming off the Xfinity Series win yesterday. Carl, how's the Cup race going to look and feel different?
Well, as you saw, there's nothing simple about Mexico City, and there is definitely nothing simple about this race. Joey Logano, our champion, said something is going to catch you off guard here. We heard Kyle Larson say it. It is going to be a dynamic, crazy race, and the guy who solves problems the best is going to succeed.
I agree, and I also put some guys in two different categories. There's the aggressive ones, and there's ones that go a little bit too far, and they're desperate because they think that this is their opportunity to get in the playoffs. So whoever can manage that aggressiveness and not really show any desperation, because desperation here, Carl, will bite you.
It's all about making no mistakes, right? But that is easier said than done. Our leaders in the booth make mistake-free days look easy. I know it's anything but they are up to the challenge, and history is being made today. Let's send it over to Steve Letarte, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Adam Alexander.
Thank you, Danielle. We're fired up. We're ready to go. First Cup race here in Mexico City. First point race outside the U.S. since 1958. Today is big, and Dale, it will be challenging.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. There's some really tricky braking zones on this racetrack. We obviously have some weather that's in the area all weekend long, throwing a lot of guesswork into the weekend for the teams.
Well, guesswork for sure, and everybody talks about the racetrack and how it's difficult, but sometimes we forget we're over 7,000 feet in elevation. The air is thinner. That hurts those drivers' lungs as they try to catch their breath lap after lap. Those engines are the same. As they try to get the air required to make that horsepower, they will struggle on the brakes. They will overheat in an instant.
Steve, let's talk about the fan favorite. That's Daniel Suarez. Let's begin with yesterday. Coming from the back in a backup car and winning here was amazing.
You heard what it meant to him when he joined everyone on stage earlier today. The 33-year-old from Monterrey, Mexico, went to victory lane, and I don't think I appreciated it until I heard the crowds roar. Rarely do we see a driver that I believe is supported by every fan in every seat at this entire racetrack. We will see if that support is a distraction. I don't believe so. I think it's momentum, it's motivation. I think he's living out his childhood dream. He's running in the Cup Series in his home country.
SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen, has stolen the show, though, this weekend with speed. This guy set on the pole, and you think about what's happened to him since he won that big race in Chicago in 2023. He's been normalized a little bit at the road courses that we traditionally go to. But here in Mexico, this is a new track for everybody. He's got his advantage back. He's back on the pole, and he has to win. Back in 33rd in points to make the playoffs, he has to be aggressive today.
He and Suarez in the same situation, outside the top 25 in points. If they're going to run for a championship, they need to win a race. With that, we go to the standings. 9 drivers have won this year. They're locked in. But with 11 races to go to the championship chase, go to the cut line. They're tied there. And then I look at A.J. Allmendinger. He could win this race and put himself into the championship equation.
Not on this sheet. Mike McDowell is very strong this weekend. He can win as well. There's a lot of threats to that cut line.
And you guys keep talking about wins. Well, let's not forget points. Drivers are going to get in with points. Road courses are difficult. There will be a lot of decisions along the way. Do you pit? Do you stay out? And do you make the right decision? We'll find out when the race is over.
The anxiety level is on high. It's time to get going in Mexico City. Let's go trackside now for the command.
Mexico City, here to deliver the most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome today's Grand Marshal, NASCAR Hall of Famer and Vice Chairman of Hendrick Motorsports. Ciudad de México, necesito que hagan ruido, porque vamos a presentar al Grand Marshal, nada más y nada menos. Él es Jeff Gordon.
Hola, Mexico! Pilotos, start your engines!
We're at a road course, and Jeff Gordon still got it. Time to turn it up in Mexico City. We're green next. It's NASCAR on Prime.
For the first time ever, the NASCAR Cup Series is in Mexico City, Mexico to take on Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez. This track is a 2.43-mile road course that first entered the NASCAR circuit in 2005. Despite the Cup Series never securing a date on this track before, familiar faces such as Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch have both taken the checkered flag at this track in the Xfinity Series, while driver of the number 99 Chevrolet for Trackhouse Racing, Daniel Suarez, made it to victory lane here 3 times in the Mexico Series. Between the electric atmosphere and unique motorsports culture, the Cup Series debut in Mexico has created excitement throughout the field. Here's what some of your favorite drivers had to say about NASCAR's return to Mexico.
You know, it's a lot of fun to go to Mexico. I ran there a couple times back when it was the Xfinity Series races, so the Mexican fans were very passionate about their particular drivers.
The fans will be full on whenever you see F1 there or those electric cars. I think it's great.
Well, I think it's going to be one of the most exciting atmospheres we go to all year long. You're going to have an electric atmosphere that's certainly going to bleed into the drivers' attitudes as well.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, you know, to be able to go with the Cup Series to Mexico. I'm very, very happy. I'm very blessed to be living in this era of NASCAR that we are having this opportunity. You know, if you think about it, you know, the way that my career has been, I left my country in 2011, coming to the United States to look for opportunities without speaking English, without having anything. And 14 years later, I'm not just a Cup driver, but I'm a champion, I'm a winner in the Cup Series, and now I'm going back to my country to have a real shot to win that race. So you want to be one of those opportunities that you only get a few times in a lifetime, and I'm very fortunate to be in this position.
Today, the Cup Series will race on the 15-turn National Circuit configuration for 100 laps and 243 miles. Restarts could be both chaotic and crucial, with a right-hand 90-degree turn waiting for drivers in Turn 1. Also, with limited passing zones, track position will be key throughout the race. Mexico City sits at an altitude of roughly 2,240 meters, which will put additional strain on the engines and be a significant adjustment for drivers who have never raced on this track before. Who will take home the first ever Cup Series checkered flag in Mexico City? Will it be one of our road course ringers, a NASCAR veteran, the hometown hero Daniel Suarez, or a new face that makes it to victory lane? Get ready, it's time to find out.
Fogarty and Church get you juiced up for NASCAR on Prime. Today it's round 16 in Mexico City. This place is outstanding, and the race no doubt will deliver today. Qualifying happened yesterday. Let's get to our starting grid presented by Chewy. Front row, Shane Van Gisbergen looking for his second career victory, one on the streets of Chicago 2 years ago. And Ryan Preece comes in tied at the cut line when you look at the playoffs. Ross Chastain got his first career win at Circuit of the Americas. Ty Gibbs coming off his best run in 2025. Row 3, Michael McDowell. He's won on a road course. He came at Indianapolis. And Kyle Larson, who has won 6 times on the road. Just behind them in row 4, Todd Gilliland. Best ever run Indianapolis on the road a few years ago. And A.J. Allmendinger. All 3 of his victories at the Cup level coming in road course competition. Row 5, Joey Logano, our reigning champ. Next to the fan favorite, Daniel Suarez. Let's go to Marty Snyder.
Adam, some late breaking news for Shane Van Gisbergen, the pole sitter for today's race, who felt fine all morning. But before the drivers meeting, he told his crew chief, Stephen Doran, I don't feel well. And in the drivers meeting, he said, man, I really do not feel well. They were able to get some medicine for SVG before he climbed in the car, but he got to the car very late, and clearly a sickness has come upon him. He's going to have to gut it out for the laps here at Mexico City today.
Man, that sounds tough. We'll continue the starting grid in row 6. We have Kyle Busch, who sits right on top of that playoff cut line, and Chase Elliott. Row 7 is Vegas winner Josh Berry in the Family Dollar Toyota of Eric Jones. Back in row 8, a great qualifying effort by Riley Herbst, and one of the favorites to win today, the 17 of Chris Buescher. Row 9 has Spire Motorsports' Justin Haley and Nashville winner Ryan Blaney. In row 10, 2 drivers we should see work their way through the field. Chase Briscoe looking for his first win of the season, and Talladega winner Austin Cindric. Now let's get down to Trevor for more on Chase Elliott.
Yeah, Chase Elliott is a driver we cannot forget or count out on a road course. 7 wins, leads the field of drivers all time in wins here, but he has not yet won in a next-gen car. He's been trying to figure this out, how to balance that calmness that Carl Edwards talked about with the aggression that it takes in this era to be successful. 42 wins since his last points-paying win. Alan Gustafson, though, feels like the long-run speed is there for this 9 car today.
Thank you, Trevor. Back to the starting grid in row 11. We have the 35-year-old Austin Dillon behind that famed number 3, as well as Tyler Reddick, a 3-time road course winner. Row 12, the 77 of Carson Hocevar, Mr. Excitement. He will start next to Zane Smith. Row 13, Bubba Wallace, 61 points currently above the cut line, will start next to Cole Custer. Row 14, William Byron, a 2-time road course winner, will start next to Ty Dillon out of College Racing. Row 15, Alex Bowen, who won Chicago Street Course a year ago. He'll line up next to Brad Keselowski. Kim.
Well, Carson Hocevar and his team come into Mexico City very encouraged after the strength they've shown the last 3 weeks. But with a road course, there are a lot of questions when it comes to this race and strategy. Crew Chief Luke Lambert told me he came here relatively confident on what he thought he would do strategy-wise. But after watching yesterday's Xfinity Series race, he said he is now very unsure on how they will play it. Flexibility, he said, is going to be key here this afternoon.
Kim, now let's look at drivers starting outside the top 30, row 16. You got Christopher Bell, who won the first road course race this year at Circuit of the Americas, next to his Toyota teammate, John Hunter Nemechek. Row 17, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Cody Ware. Behind them in row 18, you got Noah Gregson, who's in a backup car after crashing earlier this weekend, and Ryan Truex in for Denny Hamlin. Hamlin home with his new baby boy. Happy Father's Day, Denny. And rounding out the field today, Catherine Legg making her second start of 2025. Back to Kim.
Christopher Bell starts deep in the field, rolling off 31st. And when I talked to crew chief Adam Stevens, he said it was the driver, not the car, in qualifying. Even saying the time Bell spent in the Xfinity Series car yesterday might have taken him a little off his game during Cup qualifying. Bell did not put together good qualifying laps, losing time in multiple corners. He said, on a positive note, though, they feel really good about their long-run car, and that was what helped them win COTA earlier this season.
Doors will open, no doubt. When you talk about strategy for Bell, coming from deep in the field, already 3 victories this year. Talk about it so much, how good he was early in the campaign. Now we get to our track facts brought to you by Subway.
Well, we've talked about just how difficult this road course is. 15 total corners, 2.42 miles. This front straightaway, nearly 4,000 feet, the second longest in all of NASCAR, and for sure the highest elevation at over 7,300 feet above sea level.
Well, you talk about this track. Let's take a look at it. An awesome drone camera's going to take us for a lap around here. Down this long front straightaway, 4,000 feet into a heavy braking zone. Restarts will be wild down here into turn 1. Go through this little quick back and forth. You need your car to change directions to get out of turn 3 and down this long straightaway. Another difficult braking zone at the end here into turn 4. You got a sweeper, pretty simple corner to get through once you're in it. And then you got a very difficult switchback of 5, 6, 7, and then 8, 9, as well as 10. You have to get through those corners one after the other perfectly to set you up for a passing zone into the braking of turn 11. That is a very difficult corner. You can make a lot of mistakes there. You can also make a lot of mistakes here in this tough stadium section. 12, 13, 14, 15. Get through there really good. It presents you with another passing opportunity at the end of this long front straightaway. Really fun racetrack. The drivers are having a lot of fun with the challenges.
One of the best every time we come to a new venue or anytime on the road. Kyle Larson starting 6th today. Marty with his crew chief.
Yeah, there's so much strategy to play out today here, Adam, in Mexico City, as some raindrops I see here on pit road. Cliff Daniels, how do you call this race where it could be wet, it could be dry, and there's so many strategy plays?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to take it as it comes, and we've certainly discussed all the scenarios of rain, you know, what it's going to look like if there's a lot of tire fall off. Coming here, I think we thought it was going to be a pretty straightforward two-stop race, but that looks a little different now. So we had to do a lot of work to our Valvoline Chevy, you know, just trying to get a hold of the tractor in practice, but I think we're in a better spot now. So we're going to take it as it comes. I know Kyle's going to do a great job for us, the Victor will also, and just try to make sure we're there at the end.
All right, Steve, I think Cliff said it. It's not going to be straightforward. It's never straightforward for you crew chiefs, is it?
No, never straightforward. A lot of preparation goes into it. This weather just makes it even more complicated. We're starting to see just a few raindrops on some of the roof cameras. Here you see this Ford Performance onboard of Austin Cindric. You see the drops coming down. Remember now, if you're tuning in for your first time, this rain shower will not cancel a race on the road courses. These cars are equipped with wet weather equipment. They have these flaps behind the rear tires to help with spray. They'll have run lights. We also have wet weather tires. So these drivers will continue to radio in as we go around this circuit and decide. So far, I still think it's good for drives.
You know, you talk about the wet, and there's one theory that you get a wet racetrack and it really opens things up because it creates chaos and makes it a wild card. The other theory is it exaggerates the advantage for those drivers that are so good at this style of racing.
Everything is going to exaggerate the advantage because of the challenges. So we talked a lot about the elevation, and I think the person at home can understand that, hey, when you just can't get a big breath of fresh air, it hurts your lungs, you can't run as fast. Well, the cars as well, the elevation affects them dramatically. Let's go into the prime garage and take a look. It starts with the aero effects. Thick air pushes down, a lot of downforce, and also heavy drag. The car has to cut through that thick air. Well, as we thin the air up, the downforce goes down, the drag goes down, so it's faster down the straightaways. But let's go under the hood and talk about the other real big effects. Two, the jump out. One, the air going into the engine, but my concern would be the air going into the brakes. This high altitude does not cool very well. This thinner air, you try to get as much as you can in, but if your driver does not take care of them, these brakes are going to overheat, the pedal is going to fade, and you're just going to have no overall stopping power. So basically, a little less power, a little less downforce, less drag, and less cooling. So it kind of does everything you want it to do the wrong way. It's faster down the straightaways with less drag. It doesn't stop as good when you get there, Adam. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
And this is the most that I think we've heard the drivers talk about, not only the tire fall off and tire degradation over the course of the practice run, but also brakes. Losing brakes in just a 12-lap run.
Yeah.
Having the pedal fade, that is very, very new, and it shows just how serious this condition could be today.
Back down to Marty.
Adam, we mentioned the drops here on pit road. They have stopped here on pit road, but NASCAR asked Shane Van Gisbergen, hey, what's your opinion of the track? Is it good to go? He said, yes, I think it's fine. Let's throw the green.
I'm with him. Let's go. I'm ready.
I was going to say, I know I don't want to wait any longer.
I know.
We got here on Thursday, and we've had so much fun the last 3 days, but I am so fired up to get this race going.
Just clear up real quick, because we're starting in the drive. We do get a rain shower. NASCAR will throw the caution, and then the teams will have to adapt, but we'll have a yellow if we get a rain shower.
All weekend long, these guys have been out on this racetrack by themselves, not in traffic. They're going to have a lot more trouble getting the downforce, getting the grip, getting into the braking zones, now stacking traffic around them. Look for all these mistakes these drivers may start to make early in this race.
The scene here is amazing. You can just feel the electricity. It's a history-making day in NASCAR. Van Gisbergen, Preece up front. As they come off of turn 15, we are green in Mexico City.
We'll see how aggressive these guys want to be on the entry to turn 1, the braking zone. Shane Van Gisbergen trying to stay a little bit low. Here comes Chastain up on the outside.
Ross Chastain from row 2, jumping up behind his teammate. Van Gisbergen the advantage in turn 1, 2, 3.
3 and 4 wide, trying to get through turns 2 and 3. Somebody back there looking at 77. Hocevar is just going to take a shortcut.
Why am I not surprised? Hocevar was the first one off track today. We know he's going to get after it, and he's not afraid of contact.
We thought turn 1 would be a very difficult braking zone. Turn 4 has been a big surprise this weekend. All the drivers in there cleanly. We've seen a lot of tire smoke, a lot of lockup, more than ever before in any other practice at a road course. So you can't flat spot the tires today. That will make your stints very difficult if you do that. So far, everybody's clear through all the S's and off into turn 11. This was another difficult braking zone. We saw some wrecks, some crashes throughout the weekend here.
Caution is out. And it's for weather.
So you see right here on board with the prime onboard camera on Chase Elliott, you see the drops.
Yeah, we have the rain right here out in front of us in the booth. It's a heavy mist. It's a heavy rain. I wouldn't even call it a mist, but definitely a good idea for NASCAR to get the caution out before anybody gets off. And there's not a lot of area to, there's some runoff in certain parts of the track, but say, for example, coming out of the stadium right here, there's walls everywhere. If we have any kind of an issue, the driver surprised, so it's dry through there, right? Underneath that little canopy, you come out of there into the wet and hit that wall, you could be in big trouble for the rest of the day. So smart by NASCAR to get the caution out here.
We'll step aside. Early caution for rain in Mexico City. Van Gisbergen on top. Get one lap, early caution for rain. Pit road is open.
These teams will come down. I'm assuming they're all going to go to wet weather tires. Looking at the rain right here. Very small boxes, going to be very busy, Trevor.
These will be competitive stops here. The 71 opting to come down and put on rain tires. At first they weren't sure, but now the rain has really picked up here on the front stretch.
Ty Gibbs in that 54 middle of your screen, just like Trevor said, going to put on wet weather tires for Ty Gibbs. Remember, he ran that Xfinity race yesterday, felt very confident today, Marty.
Shane Van Gisbergen going to go to the wets here as well. Already got the windshield wiper working. As you can see, he's in pit stall #1. And you would think SVG, with his experience in the rain, would love racing in the rain. He told me this morning, I actually can't stand it. I do not like racing in the rain, but we'll see if that experience pays off. His teammate, Ross Chastain, will win the race off pit road as everybody goes to wets here in Mexico City.
Walk us through the whole situation again here, Steve, because, you know, well, we got a couple guys that are out behind the pace car, but this is the equipment that these teams have to use when they come to a race where you could run in the wet.
Yeah, so you see the windshield wiper pretty straightforward. Running light is basically a light. You see it on the graphic there. That's more for visibility. It's not a brake light. It doesn't work with the brake pedal. It's just running the whole time. The defogger's inside the car. Hopefully yours works well to keep the windshield clear. The rain flaps are what you see down behind the rear tires. Think about a mud flap on a big tractor trailer. These flaps are really just to reduce spray. These cars have more than enough grip. It's the vision that's the challenge when it comes to the rain. And then the wet tires, which are optional. You said those 2 cars that stayed on the racetrack. That tells me that they're still on slicks. That is going to be an adventure. And they may just want to give one more lap. Maybe they'll think it's too wet and they'll abort and go to these treaded tires. This is what a rain tire looks like, much like your street tire at home has the tread to dissipate the water.
Yeah, the conditions of this racetrack are getting worse by the second, and I'm just shocked by those two guys who want to stay out there on the slicks. That's going to be so difficult with the field behind you, all over the back of you on these wet tires with a little bit more grip. You know, for a driver, when you're put in this situation, there's only a couple things you really need to be concerned with. Obviously, stay off the paint. Any kind of a painted surface or stripe. There's some you know, some curbs on the outside of the braking zone of turn 11, for example. It's literally paint on the racetrack. There's no curb at all. It looks like a curb. Stay off of that. That's going to be very slick in a braking zone like that. Also, you want to stay in. Get in the wet on the straightaways. Keep the temperature out of the tires. So fine water as the lane tends to dry up, the racing line tends to dry up. Find the wet part of the racetrack down the straightaway to keep the temp down in the tire. And when you can, run offline a little bit. Don't run in the racing line. That's where all the oil and dirt and residue collects. It'll get really slick with that water on top. And so you want to run offline when you can to find grip. When it's really wet. Right now, I think they'll probably, I mean, there's not a lot of opportunity to really get offline in some of these sections of the racetrack, but you're going to try to do that when you can.
Drivers are going to get one more lap under yellow to check out the track conditions. We mentioned a tight pit road and competitive pit stops on board right here. Chase Elliott trying to leave. The 4 coming in. Oh, the 35 squeezing. The 9 has to come to a stop. No harm, no foul, but close conditions.
Hey, race day fans, find your favorite driver and official NASCAR merchandise, including the new Echo Pop, by searching Shop the Race in the Amazon shopping app.
We Talked about decisions all day long. Well, a big decision, I call it an absolute gamble. The 17 of Buescher, the 2 of Cindric are on the racetrack with slicks. Yellow Goodyear tires, the other ones have white. You see slicks on the right, treaded on the left. Those slicks work in the dry, but they are icy in the wet. They were both outside the top 15. I think this is a gamble. If they stay out, I don't see how this is going to work at turn 1, Dale.
It's still pouring. It's still pouring on the racetrack all the way around, so still getting wetter and wetter. Look at that on board right there.
Now they could pit, right? They might not, but they could.
Here they go. We'll see how this works out.
Trackhouse teammates behind him. Van Gisbergen and Ross Chastain. And they're already sliding around.
Yeah, they're unable to get the power down. Buescher is going to be in big trouble. Chastain really wide here around Cindric.
That allows Ty Gibbs to jump in there. Look at Ty Gibbs. Black number 54 to the inside. He might be the race leader in turn 1, right next to Cindric.
Cindric's going to have to be careful here in the braking zone. Can he get the car slowed down? No, he's locking up tires. Locked up the right front tire there. Buescher seems to be struggling even more so.
And patience is going to run thin behind those cars that can't keep up.
Man, it is so tight when you come off of 3 and then you hit this area of the track to come to 4.
They're just barely able to get on the gas. Think about trying to use the throttle with an egg between your foot and the throttle and not crack that egg. That's what you're trying to do, getting on the gas out of these corners, trying to keep the tires from spinning, and there's going to be some contact. But this is running offline. Ross Chastain way out of the groove, but that's where the grip is. Look at the 60 there, starving for grip. You don't want to be on that paint. You're going to have no grip trying to go to throttle there.
Look at Van Gisbergen. Full contact with his teammate. Priest waiting in the wings. This for 3rd.
This track is already very slick, and the teams were very worried about this track having rain on it and getting wet. They thought that this is definitely probably, I will say, they're all going to get out of here and say this is the least amount of grip that they've ever had in these race cars.
Look at all these guys having issues on the entrance to 4, the top left of your screen. Bunch of guys went straight, bottom right, 3 wide, entering the stadium, slipping and sliding. I imagine Cindric is going to have to come to pit road here as he's 4 wide at turn 12.
My gosh. You talk about putting 20 pounds of potatoes in a 10-pound bag. We are squeezing them through the stadium.
Do they dare risk another lap? Or does a 17 and the 2 come to pit road? No, they stay on the racetrack. They're committed to this strategy.
What about it, Trevor?
Yeah, the 17 and 2 feel like this is the hardest conditions to make that decision with. It's right in between. There's no standing water. There's no dry patches. You're right in the middle of that decision as we see Cindric kind of hanging on to some track position here with that call that they made.
I understand the gamble. I just don't agree with the risk. They were running 17th and 21st. They weren't last. They had some track position, and I'm afraid you could get easily just spit off course and lose every chance you have.
Even with a damp racetrack, this rain tire holds on really well, provides a ton of grip. As long as you get it in the wet, get it in the puddles on the straightaway to keep the temperature out of it, that tire will really hold on really well, even as this track dries out. So I don't see the advantage or any advantage coming down the road for the 17 or the 1 or the 2.
Side by side for second, the 88 and the 1. The 88 has surpassed Chastain. He'll set his sights on Gibbs, the current race leader. And to your point, Dale, there'll be a crossover. When it starts to dry, there'll be a point where the slicks are just faster overall. We're nowhere near that right now. You see the windshield wipers going. How about the biggest movers? Bell up 15 spots already. There he is right there, the white-black Mobil 1, number 20. This is going to be a great look, because this is what you're seeing as the Toyota onboard camera. Look at the windshield. View is actually better than I thought. Visibility pretty decent. Let's look what the spray looks like, though, as we get down the straightaway. Look at that. Spray continues to get worse and worse. Windshield wiper basically teasing you with about 2 inches of dry.
Teasing, that is the right word.
At a lot of the other road courses, we have a ton of spray because of the speeds. Here it's so slow, I think the spray is going to be very manageable for the teams. Visibility very good. Kim.
Well, as we look at Joey Logano currently running in the 32nd position, came off pit road in the 33rd position after starting this race ninth. What happened? Well, during that pit stop, they did not get the lug tight. He actually went a box forward. They realized it. He had to back up to tighten that so they would not suffer a loose or lost wheel, and that has put him way behind in the running order.
Yeah, that great great qualifying effort yesterday, but down 24 spots since the start of this race. Fastest lap of the day belongs to Shane Van Gisbergen. He's second right now, 2 seconds behind race leader Ty Gibbs. And there goes Kyle Busch. He gets the 7. Justin Haley, Kyle Larson goes around Zane Smith, and the 19 is Chase Briscoe.
Here comes the 2. Big damage for the 5 of Kyle Busch. Saw the toe link on the right front, killed. The 8, the rear toe link on it, destroyed. Look at the back of the 7 car as he pulls away, destroyed. That was a massive hit. Kyle Busch just lost all traction as the rear brakes locked up on the entry to that corner.
Second caution, 7 laps in.
Let's take a look exactly what happened, Dale. You mentioned it. It was on braking. Here's Kyle Busch, and he is on the brakes, and it is just not going, and he loses rear grip. The car behind him the same way. And then it's just pinballs down here in the corner. The 38 of Zane Smith was kind of chasing the 8 in. They both lost rear grip, and then Cindric, he comes in on those slicks. No chance to slow down.
Yeah, it was like those guys, you know, they're out there in that traditional line trying to brake and slow the car down in that traditional line, and as it gets wet, you got to sort of offset a little bit and use a different part of the racetrack really to find that grip. As we're right on board with AJ Allmendinger. Watch this. Oh! And he never saw that coming. Riding on board with Zane Smith next year. Not getting this thing stopped, Zane.
It's like he was using Kyle Busch as a reference, and Kyle was in way too deep.
We had a lot of cars, even in the dry practice, locking up rear brakes, having big trouble in the braking zones.
How about Todd Gilliland? He was in position to be collected. Somehow maneuvers through in the 34, and I don't think he got any of it. 2 early cautions in Mexico City. Ty Gibbs, your race leader. Experience the incredible story of NASCAR's Garage 56 journey to the 24-hour of Le Mans. A team fueled by innovation and driven to make history. American Thunder NASCAR to Le Mans. Watch now only on Prime. Looking at Zane Smith, and there you see him sitting idle on the pit lane. It's our FanDuel onboard camera. He's one of those drivers collected in this incident 7 laps in Mexico City. Larson on the board, and Haley. All started with Kyle Busch, A.J. Allmendinger getting a piece of the action. And so did Chase Briscoe. We mentioned Zane Smith already. They're working on these cars.
So these cars here that have gone back to the garage area, in years past they would be out of the race. Not so much here. You have the ability to repair them. You can't change anything and everything. There is a list of parts that you're allowed to change. I'm looking at all these cars. I think they're going to be within that list of parts. And if the rain continues to fall, Trevor, chaos may ensue. So getting repaired and back on the racetrack could mean valuable points.
17 car coming down now to rip the Band-Aid off. They opted the first time to stay on slicks. Now they're going to put on wets. The 2 cars stayed out, though. Listen to Chris Buescher's audio.
Yeah, it just keeps getting worse. I made that call. I thought it was clearing up, but sorry about that.
Totally supported it. I was with you. I thought it was going to stop too, but
these conditions right now are super challenging for the crew chiefs. As we mentioned, it's just barely misting. That's why the 2 cars stayed out, Kim.
Had a couple takers on my end of pit road. The 22 of Joey Logano coming down for fuel only. Didn't really feel like they had much track position to lose by topping off. And then the 24, they actually changed tires. Williams saying, though, that turn 4 braking zone, he's starting to lock up the rears.
Man, a lot of great information. You heard Buescher's radio, so that was a driver decision. To be honest, I'm going to need some help if I'm top of the pit box. I can look at the radar, but we don't do this a whole lot. Do you think it's too wet? Do you think it's going to dry? I mean, Cindric stayed out in the 11th position. I can't tell you how good of a job the driver of the 2 is doing to be able to pull this move off right here. We saw the 8 and the 38 wreck, you know, under braking. They had the groove tires on board this Ford Performance Cam for Cindric. He has stayed inside the top 15 on slicks. This is outstanding.
You know, the other thing I would say, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Let's say that they had come down and done the conventional thing, and that is just go to rain tires when everyone else did. Maybe that puts their track position right in the middle of the accident. Neither one of them get involved, and they live to fight another day, and we'll see what Cindric does here and over the long haul as track conditions continue to change. The other thought is the points impact. Kyle Busch comes in tied at the cut line. We know what a great opportunity race this is for him and A.J. Allmendinger, and now they find themselves squarely behind the 8 ball, no pun intended.
Riding on board with Ty Gibbs, our leader with the Monster Energy camera. Got to shout out Ty this weekend. He's had great speed. Had speed yesterday in the Xfinity Series. They've been, they've had a tough year, way down in the points, in a must-win situation every single week. We're going to check out some more on boards that we have for today. This is Ryan Truex driving for Denny Hamlin this weekend with the Toyota Racing on board. And then the Xfinity Mobile on board with Tyler Reddick.
Go to the 99, Daniel Suarez, the Telcel on board.
This is his favorite place, the stadium. And another driver that could get it done today, Michael McDowell, the Blaster onboard camera. Marty?
Adam, Steve mentioned there's a damaged vehicle policy work area. That's where Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch have both come to. These teams trying to get this work done in the allotted amount of time that NASCAR gives them. Fairly significant right front and actually right rear damage they found for Kyle Larson once he came back. For Kyle Busch, the damage is worse. The right rear, also left rear has some damage as well. So they're going to be up against the clock to get all of these changes done, Adam, to get it back out on the track.
Right at the midway point of stage 1 as we return to the green flag. Gibbs, Van Gisbergen up front, and here comes Daniel Suarez jumping out of line, trying to make something happen down the front straightaway.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on there. He lost a little bit of momentum as the 43 goes by. As they all head back down into the braking zone, trying to stay low here, block any moves, any dive bombs to the inside.
43, Eric Jones, good track position early as they skate into turn 1.
Yeah, the 54 snapping around a little bit there. Ty Gibbs under the braking zone of turn 1 as the field tries to make it through this little snake of a couple of corners, turns 2 and 3 and 4. Shane Van Gisbergen down to the inside here toward the braking zone of turn 4.
Next corner, a right-hander, so the 88's in the preferred lane.
Started on the pole, cycled back, but here he is again on point. Shane Van Gisbergen from Auckland, New Zealand. 1 career win. It came in the wet on the streets of Chicago, but it's getting dicey through the S's.
Yeah, Ty Gibbs did a good job on the outside of turn 4, staying in that outside line that's got a little more rolling speed. And how wet this racetrack is out on the S's here.
Almost puddles on that second S versus the front stretch, and even here you see it's damp, but nothing like a few corners ago.
And SVG's not really trying to get on top of those curves through the S's, just using the smooth asphalt, trying to get as much drive as he can.
What about the day for Trackhouse? 3 cars, all in the top 4, including the race leader, as Gibbs lets it hang out into the stadium.
And he's trying to keep the pressure on SVG. You see 2 different approaches to turn 12. Gibbs to the inside here as we're coming up on turn 13, 14, and 15 now. Who can get the drive? SVG using the drive from the top of the racetrack to motor down this front straightaway.
Suarez once again wide. He must like that asphalt out there, feel it's an advantage.
Another driver making it work back there behind him, Christopher Bell, qualified 31st. He's made his way inside the top 10 early.
I imagine trying to get the power down coming out of turn 15. Flat off the racetrack right there. Must be really hard, so the driver's just using a lot of racetrack to open up the wheel and get the power down coming onto the front straightaway. The 60th, Priest to the inside.
Priest told Marty during NASCAR Live, it's one of the best cars I've ever had, certainly the best on a road course. He feels like he's a real threat. He's delivering after qualifying second.
And Ty Dillon up there as well, trying to battle inside this top 10 with that number 10 car. Colleague struggled in practice. Maybe they've got things improved for the race. Look how offline they are. That's where the grip is when the track's really wet. Right here where McDowell is, a little bit harder to get the power down coming out of that corner.
And then you mentioned it, this area of the racetrack much wetter.
Right there, just not able to get power down, not able to get
turned
turned.
through 15.
Got to be so careful through here. Tip and toe through this part of the racetrack. It's so frustrating when somebody drives away from you like that. Trevor.
10 car of Ty Dillon, not somebody we would normally expect to see within the top 10 here on a road course. Best finish of 15th in 26 starts. But the rain sometimes can be an equalizer for a guy like Ty Dillon. He's loving it. His crew chief also telling him under that caution to be aggressive with saving, that all those cautions could open up some strategy there, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. Between the wet weather where you just can't apply the throttle, as Dan was saying, plus the yellows, these cars are going to go much further than the expected 37 or 38 laps. I bet they're going to run 40 or 45 laps, no problem. Maybe even get to 50. That'd be halfway through the race. And if we stay in the wet conditions, the unknown becomes even greater. Now we're guessing on fuel mileage as well. Let's take a look what happened to the 4. Noah Gregson in a backup car. Just lack of grip. Around he goes.
I thought he was going to take it all the way around and just keep on going.
Look how much nicer it is for life in the front, right? Vision's a whole lot better, clearer racetrack. Although Priest, nice movements. 99 on board with Bell.
The rain's calmed down by quite a bit now, so still some issues with spray up onto the windshield from the car in front of you, but the track now should transition as they start to dry up a particular line, Kim.
Yeah, seeing a great shot out of Bell's front windshield, but he's running 8th. You guys mentioned the movement we've seen from him after starting 31st. That wet weather playing exactly how the team wanted. I talked to crew chief Adam Stevens this morning. He said, man, rain is an absolute pain, especially as a crew chief, but it creates chaos. That is what we need. We have a fast car, but we need that to benefit us and get us a little bit further into the field and break into that top 5.
You know, I would say if you could map out a perfect day, it would be stay clean through the opening 2 stages and be in the top 10 for the final stage. And when I look back at COTA where they won, that's exactly what they did. Pretty quiet stage 1, stage 2, but they took off in the final stage and maybe ahead of schedule today as he continues to drive through the field, establishing that track position. We're just over halfway through stage 1.
SVG currently lapping over a second faster than the second place car.
Leader looking good right now, Marty.
Yeah, Adam, and just to echo what Kim and you guys have been talking about, it has stopped raining here on pit road. When I went in to visit with Shane Van Gisbergen this morning, he was texting with a friend. That friend, 4-time and current world F1 champion Max Verstappen. He was asking Max for some tips on this racetrack overall, but especially in the rain. He wanted to know some secrets that Max has had here in the past, because remember, Formula One has run here for many years, and Shane has never run here, so he got all the tips he could. Junior, I find it fascinating because the entire garage area looks up to SVG and says, hey, he's got it all figured out at road courses. But even SVG will Adam's looking for tips for anyone this morning.
That's because he's a dangerous man. I mean, he's just so good at what he does, and he seeks out any opportunity to continue to get better. We see him on this racetrack moving around, trying to get temperature out of the tire. Down the straightaway, he's running it, trying to find the wettest part of the racetrack, really, to knock temp out of the tire. He knows the rain has quit. The track's going to start to transform, and so he needs to be able to take care of this tire to keep the life and the speed and grip in this wet weather tire. Let's get to the 2 radio.
All right, rain is completely stopped in 1. It's still very wet. Stopped raining everywhere. Just be patient with it. Right side.
Cindric 31st.
So they're hoping that being on these slicks as this track dries out, there'll be a shift between the speed of the wet weather tire and this dry weather tire, but I feel like that's still a ways to go. It's still really wet over this part of the racetrack, still really timid for a lot of the drivers to get through there and get through there comfortably. But all of the SVG, even though he's as good as he is open to any new information.
Absolutely.
And to have the opportunity to talk to Max is insane. Especially, you know, with the wealth of knowledge that he might have for this type of racetrack.
Look in front of Bell here. Blaney up to 7th in the running order. Van Gisbergen leading Gibbs, Priest, Chastain, Suarez. 5-6 laps to go, stage 1. Racing in the wet in our first ever trip to Mexico City for NASCAR's Cup Series. All of the action today on Prime, presented by Chewy. A bit of a slide there for race leader Shane Van Gisbergen. And now we look at today's top dog, presented by Chewy. And if you're racing here in Mexico City, your top dog has got to be Daniel Suarez.
That performance yesterday to win that Xfinity Series race and the reaction from the crowd was really breathtaking. This area right here, the stadium, and the cheers. it was just clear how popular he is. The whole country cheering Daniel Suarez on.
He's sitting in 7th place, just lost 6th place to Ty Dillon, who's driving through the field. But yeah, Daniel's been fun to watch this weekend. Not just inside the car, but outside the car as well. Been awesome to see him. So excited to have the NASCAR industry here.
So it's interesting, we have 5 laps to go in the stage, and this front area is starting to dry up. So the real question is, do you pit before the end of the stage? That would be a pretty classic road course strategy. And if you do that, do you put wets or dries on? That could be really the decision maker of your day. If you guess correctly and you go to dries first and the track continues to dry, you're gonna look great. But over here, it seems like this area of the racetrack still is damp and slippery. You have to really tiptoe. I'm kind of keeping an eye on Cindric. In his lap time, still not faster than the wets.
Something else I've kind of noticed is some ebb and flow in performance of the cars. The 20 of Bell was moving through the field. Now he's lost a few spots in the last couple of laps, actually. So could these tires be degrading a little bit more rapidly? The wet weather tire usually does really good, but since you can't really get offline, particularly like through the S's, they have to race across these curves. That rips and shreds the tires apart. Could it be really affecting the performance of the tire if you're too aggressive early as a driver?
Toyota onboard camera riding with Ryan Truex, driving the 11 for Denny Hamlin, and he's doing a nice job today. I mean, he's 21st, but this is a car that has struggled to find speed this weekend and really doing some positive things here this afternoon. Scan the QR code to save on gaming products by Logitech G, the official wheel and pedal of eNASCAR.
Ryan was notified he'd be in this car sometime midweek, and he's tested the next gen car with Toyota, so he's been inside the next gen, understands how it works, does a lot of sim testing, but he was way off on speed when they showed up. So to be sitting here running mid-pack, I bet he's thrilled. I'd be very happy with that. This rain and all the obstacles have been thrown at everybody has really leveled the playing field for a guy like him. Here's a 20, Kim.
Yeah, we see Christopher Bell, and again, Adam Stevens told me they were opening the playbook wide open in terms of what they could do to get track position after that bad qualifying effort. It looks like they will put on slicks. You see those dry weather tires. I've heard a number of radios saying the track is starting to dry out. We'll see what kind of speed he has and what he can do on the racetrack as it transitions, Marty.
Kim, Shane Van Gisbergen was having the same exact conversation with his crew that Steve mentioned a moment ago. SVG said the track is drying quickly, but I think we should go to slicks. And then his crew chief said, no, I think rain is coming in 15 minutes. So, Steve, I didn't know that weatherman was part of the job description for a crew chief, but you got to be today.
Well, absolutely, and the weather's been hard to read here in Mexico City between the elevation and the mountains surrounding the city. It's been hard for me to kind of judge where the showers are going to go. Not a lot of history or experience down here. But if it is going to rain in 15 more minutes, you definitely want to stay on the wet weather tires. I've been kind of watching Cindric because he's out there on slicks, and he cannot match SVG's pace on dries. Or excuse me, on wets. Here we are on Cindric. Listen how early he lifts. Remember, he's on slicks. He's yet to pit at any point during this race. And look how his car does not have a lot of grip.
His last lap time of 151.4. To your point, Steve, the leaders are running 147s. So still quite a bit of discrepancy between the two tires. And I would obviously, I think, be paying attention to the 20 car as he goes out here on slicks and runs a few laps. I'd watch the lap times that he runs. Kim.
You see Ty Gibbs short pitting this. They are just here for the win. It was interesting, though, they had the wet weather tires on the wall about a lap and a half ago. But as they heard more drivers talking about the track dry out, they quickly changed it to the slicks. So they will put 4 fresh slick tires on the top car for Ty Gibbs, as the 41 of Cole Custer should be coming down too. He said they could only go about maybe 3 more laps on the wet, so they are electing to bring him down sooner than later. Car balance is fine for the conditions, though.
Scheduled green flag pit stops as we head toward the end of stage 1. 3 laps to go. Reigning champ Joey Logano is in, Kim.
And Joey was one of the first drivers I heard talk about the track conditions and felt like it was dry enough to put those slicks back on. Again, Joey Logano looking to make up track position after an ill stop the last time they were on pit road. 24 also pitting for 4 fresh slick tires.
So your idea is that you know with 3 more laps the caution's going to come out. Let's see what the leader SVG does. He's going to be the next guy to make a decision. Pit road will close when the leader takes 2 to go. So that means that the 88 could pit this time by. This would be a big decision maker. Wouldn't shock me if Priest stays on the racetrack regardless. He came in tied in the cut line with Kyle Busch. 10 points available if he wins this stage. So I can see the points being worth it for Priest to stay out, but he will then start behind all of these guys if he pits under the yellow. Let's see what this 88 does.
Priest did win a stage running along at Circuit of the Americas earlier this season. Here's Van Gisbergen, and he is going to make a pit stop here.
And I think you're going to have to go to slicks if you think the rain's not coming. The track is drying. The question is, if they truly believe a rain shower's in the area, will they gamble and stay on wets? If they do that, they would have a big advantage against the field as you see Priest and Blaney staying on the racetrack, Marty.
Here comes SVG. Yes, the 60 stays out. I wouldn't be surprised if the 1 comes down pit road. Ross Chastain, they talked about if we can win the stage, we will stay out. Here they're going to go to slicks. They left it up to Shane Van Gisbergen. Steven Duran said, you can do what you want to do. He said he wanted slicks. Track is drying quickly in his opinion, Trevor.
And we see the 10 car come down with an impressive run for Ty Dillon, putting on those slick tires right now. The 71 car of Michael McDowell, though, is opting to stay on the racetrack to get those stage points. Another reason they're staying out is they feel like a 106 is the lap time that they got to shoot for to put on dry tires. We just saw the leader, Ryan Priest, run that 106.
You can tell the drivers that feel like they can still point their way into the playoffs. They chase the points. Others who say, we got to win a race, and therefore you come down, you flip the stage to establish that track position after the stage ends and everything cycles through.
You see everybody on the left-hand side from Priest all the way down. Everybody that pitted at lap 2, those are all on wet weather tires still and staying out.
It's a risk if you want to win the first stage. You get the points, but you almost kind of throw away a really good chance of winning the race outright. 18 road course races in the next-gen car. The stage winner has only won 1 of those.
I remember a few years ago we said, there's no way you can pit at the stages and win the race.
Yeah.
Larson, I think, pitted at the end of both stages and went on to win. He put that theory behind us because the car was so good that day. But you're right. The game plan has been pretty simple. If you're going to win these races, you've got to flip the stage in so many occasions. As things get physical out of the stadium, Todd Gilliland racing with his old teammate Michael McDowell muscling through the 71. Every position is a point. They're chasing him here with 1 to go on the stage.
That's some good short track racing right there coming out of the stadium section. They're still trying to break the draft or get a little water and temperature out of the tires. Here's the battle up front. Priest, Blaney.
I don't know if Priest could just hold off Blaney. Blaney has run him down about a half a second a lap for the last 4 laps. Both on the same tire combination, both on the same laps on tires, coming back to the green and white checkered, which would be the end of stage 1.
They're going to look for some water and some dampness to take the temperature out. We did see some of the cars fall off in lap time and performance on this wet weather tire, while some have done better. Look, the 12 getting a little bit too far into the corner there, missing the corner. Now you can see that line starting to dry out as they head on into the S's. They're running 144s up front. All of our guys on new tires are in the 2s.
Ryan Blaney already won this year in dominating fashion 2 weeks ago in Nashville.
To Dale's point, the slick tires are dramatically slower currently. So if the track conditions don't continue to improve, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Here they are, final time through the stadium portion of this road course. Priest looking for his 3rd career stage win and 2nd on the road. Both would come here in 2025. 14 and 15 and back to the front straightaway. RFK put all 3 of their cars in the top 10 last week at Michigan. And a solid point start to the day for Ryan Priest, who wins stage 1. Blaney is 2nd. It'll be a little bit before we see Chastain back there in 3rd. 4th to Michael McDowell. He needed points and got them. Todd Gilliland in the top 5. Jones and Hocevar get points. Bubba Wallace up to 8th. Chase Elliott 9th. And the man that's celebrating his homecoming, Daniel Suarez, rounds out the top 10 and gets 1 stage point. We're off and rolling in Mexico City. The NASCAR Cup Series racing here for the first time. NASCAR on Prime video is brought to you by Chewy for life with pets and by the Nintendo Switch 2. Great to have you with us on a Sunday afternoon from Mexico City. This relief lap is sponsored by National Debt Relief. When debt hits hard, National Debt Relief gets you back on track. Chase Briscoe gets his lap back here in Mexico City.
Chase was involved in that early wreck in turn 1. He had some minimal damage. They had to work on the right front of that car on pit road and see if they've gotten the speed back or the pace back, all the repairs done to be able to give him an opportunity to run well.
Say it so many times, just stay in the game, stay in the game, stay in the game.
Well, he's sitting right there on that, above that cut line, but vulnerable. In a couple of bad days with about 11 races or 10 races after today to the playoffs. Can't have any rough results.
It's going to be pretty fascinating what all the leaders decide to do, whether they think it's time to go to slicks, whether they're going to stay on reins. Will come around this time. Pit road will be open. Priest, Blaney, Chastain, McDowell, Gilliland all have to decide. I think the safe call is to come get on slicks with everyone else and kind of get on sequence with everyone. I could see the gamble of just staying out on reins, hoping for another shower. Or, the slicks weren't quite faster. Now, we think they should continue to get faster if it doesn't rain again. You see slicks on the wall right there for the Trackhouse team.
First thing we said when we came on the air for practice Friday, we're excited about this process, but we're also very curious because there were just so many unknowns of a new venue. And then you add the element of, okay, it's going to rain, the track's going to get wet, but which direction do you go? The curveballs that these teams have faced across the board this weekend have just been remarkable.
Well, I'm thankful that over the course of the last couple of years, NASCAR sort of put it into the team's hands to make those decisions. Yeah, let the teams be the ones to decide their fate on what tires to put on the car. So that's been enjoyable because it's really turned it into a more natural race.
Seems like every tire I see on pit road is that bright yellow lettering on the Goodyear sidewall. So as expected, most come to pit road, but some do stay on the racetrack, Trevor.
Yeah, the 71 opting to stay out. Steve, we mentioned this would open up the opportunity for a 2-stop race, going longer on these rain tires, especially with more weather being a potential later on, Kim.
Well, on the flip side, Trevor, Ryan Blaney in that 12 car, middle of your screen, elected to come. They had a discussion on the radio. Ryan telling his team, it's getting pretty dry. It is getting there. I think I will feel confident on the slick, so we'll put those dry tires on for Ryan, Marty.
Kim, I talked to Derek Finley, the crew chief for Ryan Priest, on the bottom of your screen about this possible move this morning. He said to Steve's point, not only where we are in the points, but also the unknown of today. I'm going to take stage points and a playoff point if I can get it. He did indeed get it. They go to slicks for the 60 after the stage 1 win.
If you're going to play this game, Marty, you have to execute on the pit lane, and Priest does that. 17 drivers stay out. We reset the running order when we return. Throughout NASCAR on Prime coverage, you are hearing a reimagined classic, Up Around the Bend, an Amazon music original by John Fogerty and Eric Church. Listen anytime as it's available to stream only on Amazon Music. I know Danielle, Carl, and Corey, they're toe-tapping down there, aren't you guys?
Oh, we are just living for this action right here outside of turn 12, Adam. Good news, bad news for your Stage 1 winner, Ryan Preece. Good news is he entered this race on the playoff cut line. He's got a fast car. Bad news is no stage winner has gone on to win a race at a road course in the last 7. Let's talk conditions, guys. NASCAR right now is considering this a dry track. We're seeing a lot of drivers choose slicks. What do you see?
Sorry, somebody's considering that dry? No, this is a mess, guys. And as a driver who's been in a stock car on a wet track and a drying track up in Montreal a while back, this is very, very difficult for the drivers. So hard to just manage the car around the track and then to try to go fast, try to race people, very tough.
I'll tell you what's also hard is you just go from running 15 seconds faster, now a dry-ish line, and you have to really toe that line of grip to go find what more. We know there's 10 more seconds on the racetrack of pace than what these guys are used to. That's the challenging part.
Yeah, we saw that one of the best drivers in the world, Kyle Busch, just drive down in there and lost the rear. It could happen to anybody. It's very treacherous.
Who's impressing you thus far? SVG not feeling good, but he's running good. Ryan Blaney also performing well.
SVG said he doesn't like to race in the rain. Amazing. Ryan Blaney, what did he tell us this morning?
I said 1 to 10. What's your confidence if this thing goes on wets? He goes -2. So Blaney actually drove to the front, feeling really good. But I'm really excited to see how SVG manage these slicks up against these 4 guys on wets and see how he can get control of this race again.
I'm interested to see what Mother Nature's going to do because she could throw a wrench into this whole game plan.
The radar is all green. I don't know why it's not raining right now.
It's rainy season here in Mexico, Adam. You guys are doing a great job keeping up with it in the booth.
It's a lot to manage, that's for sure. Let's get more reports from pit road. We start with Trevor.
Austin Cindric said, hey, this race isn't that chaotic for me. He hasn't been to pit road yet. His pit crew's probably getting bored down there. Everybody else coming, putting on rain tires, going back and forth. He's still on those slick tires, the only car in the field that is yet to pit. So he's hoping this track is drying out. It's going to come his way. Crew chief told him there's rain possibly another 20 minutes away. That would play out perfect for us to use these up, come down and get rain tires on.
As you see right here on the left-hand side, great update, Trevor, of Cindric, who is on slicks, as you see on the left, but on slicks that are older than everyone else's slicks. The front 4 on wets. Remember, in the damp, the wets are better. In the dry line, the dries are faster. I don't know what that means into turn 1, but we're going to see which one has more grip.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the wets still have more speed because the track still seems a little messy to me. And the wets are softer. They can be fast. They degrade very quickly, and they've been on these cars for quite a while now. How much more, if any, do they have left?
Spire teammates on the front row, McDowell and Hocevar, both looking for their first win of the year.
Free pass of the 19, had to give his lap back for fueling the second time, so he's now back 1 lap down.
Hocevar cutting it wide as we return to the green flag to begin stage 2.
McDowell blocking that low line.
Rittenhouse Jr. making a play. Laying on Suarez into the corner. McDowell gets away with the top spot, or does he? There is Suarez. The 99 making his way around. Chaos behind him.
Yeah, big spin in the back. Maybe some contact with some other cars. The 4 of Gregson. He's going to pull away.
Did you hear the crowd reacting as Suarez got the lead? This is outstanding. Won yesterday, and here he is on point in Mexico City.
Looks like those slicks are handling pretty well the first third of this lap.
So this is where I think the wets are going to have an advantage, is through the S's, because there's still some puddles and some areas that the dries have to be careful, although that line is looking much drier. What a job by Suarez.
Gibbs needs to let Suarez lead into the stadium here so we can hear the fans.
Just please play along, okay? Side by side as they get to the corner. And here they are into the stadium. Battle for the lead. Ty Gibbs stealing the moment, 54 on point. And here comes Suarez teammate Shane Van Gisbergen trying to get second.
Ty Gibbs going to try to check out here as these 2 argue over second place. Suarez is going to keep it for now. Here comes a run. Behind them, McDowell trying to get some dampness down there on the inside for those wet tires to try to continue to allow them to extend their life.
Gibbs just turned the fastest lap of the day. That'll pay a point at the end of the afternoon, our Xfinity fastest lap. Cindric, 5th in the running order. Alex Bowman right there. Haven't said his name today. Hart crashed last week at Michigan. Questions about whether he would be able to race today. He's knocking on the door of the top 10 in the 48 for Hendrick Motorsports.
SVG back to the inside of Suarez, going to take it over here. Here's the 42. John Hunter Nemechek around, exiting turn 3. Riding on board with McDowell, the blaster on board.
Starting to get a little rhythm now. Some running, track drying, a little bit more conditioning. Let's see right here, Mike McDowell on board. That's well over 100 miles an hour as he comes down to the second set of the S's. Now he's entering the stadium. Oh, Cindric comes darting by. Remember, McDowell on wet, Cindric on dries. That's where the dries really have a huge advantage, is under braking.
I gotta say, the job that Cindric has done to stay patient, keep it underneath of him, avoid any problems, racing on slicks in a very wet condition, and here he is running 4th now.
Here's a replay of John Hunter Nemechek getting turned around off the 45 of Reddick in turn 2. That's just a really tight, obnoxious corner.
Obnoxious is a good word. More real estate to gain here for Cindric. Driving below Suarez. Coming through another tough part of the racetrack. Off the 3 over to 4.
Now if you're Suarez or any of those cars that are still out there on the wet, you know you're going to lose time. You're going to try to get farther enough into this run that it gets you into some fuel windows to come to pit road. I think there's no doubt that a pit stop is coming. The same for Cindric, remember. He hasn't put any fuel in his car since the start of the race. This is a very racy track. A lot of opportunities to push and shove.
Bowman right there, making a run on the 77. Looking pretty racy. Gonna drive to the inside here and take that spot away. Moves him up into 9th place.
A run onto him, a run into him.
Yeah, he came in here battered and bruised after that heavy wreck at Michigan. Wasn't sure even if he's gonna actually race this weekend. Was doubtful about how he felt. Running pretty well here early.
Bell with his best running position of the day, up to 4th.
Qualified terribly, but everybody said this was a car to watch. That number 20. 71 McDowell on those wets, still hanging in there.
An impressive run for Bell, as you mentioned, Dale, up to 4th, right? That's 27 spots from where he started.
No.
Oh, man.
34, Todd Gilliland.
It's a little bit of a blind spot as well. 14-15 combination heading onto the front stretch. He's going to try to loop it around.
So many times when you go around here, you got a lot of room to manipulate the car, get it back going. This is one of the areas it's hard once you get turned around to get your bearings and get back in the right direction.
77 trying to get to pit road there, had everybody kind of 3 wide. See, the 77 pulls over to try to get to pit road. That puts them 3 wide. Just a bad situation for everybody.
The worst for Gilliland. Got spun around.
Interesting, Hocevar decides to get off the wets. He's had enough. McDowell's still digging.
Fine for our execution. That means they have a plan on how much further they'd like to go, knowing they're going to lose time, but he's happy with the game plan. Carl and I discussed this at the beginning of the race about, hey, you got to keep your driver up to date on what the plan is and how he's accomplishing it. Trevor.
Yeah, the 71 of Michael McDowell starting to feel those tires wear out. Still within a couple seconds of the fastest times, but now the lap time's dropping down into that 94-second bracket. That's what we saw in practice. Crew Chief Travis Peterson was telling him, hey, go out there and run the dry line. I don't care if you blister these things. We're going to come soon. Actually looking at coming this time, guys.
Both him and Suarez on the pit road.
McDowell seemed a little more committed, or at least earlier in the game than Suarez. That was a late move. Here's the 71, Trevor.
Yeah, you're going to see dry tires or slicks go on the 71 car. Michael McDowell, obviously a great job managing that, staying out on those wet tires, was able to keep the track position.
And for Daniel Suarez, originally Matt Swiderski wanted 10 to 12 laps on those wet tires during this stage. That's not the case. They ultimately decided they were done with the wet weather tires, putting on slicks. Suarez saying, I don't have much front turn or forward drive. The team saying, we'll get another read of it on these slick tires.
And after these two have pitted, that leaves Stenhouse as the only car out there on wet tires. Cindric on low fuel running third. We can expect pit stops out of both when we come back.
Round 16 for NASCAR's Cup Series takes us to Mexico City. And the coverage on Prime, presented by Chewy. 15 to go, stage 2. We get our FanDuel race update. The numbers are in, Steve.
So I think the top three are easy to understand, right? SVG, Bell, and Gibbs currently great. I like Suarez as the emotional favorite, and he seems to be rising to the occasion. Chase Elliott, obviously one of the most popular. But other than the 88, the 20, and the 54, I have no idea. This race has been so chaotic with wets and dries and strategy. If you're confused watching, welcome into the boat, because I'm not exactly sure, other than the top three, where everybody else stacks up.
That's a great point. I think, we know obviously the 54 and 88 are fast, but as this track dries, it changes for the teams, changes for the drivers, and how their cars handle. So who might come from the middle of the pack with some real speed? Priest, we saw some other people like him fast in practice. Maybe they rise back to the top of the leaderboard or near the top of the leaderboard as this track continues to change.
What's up, Trevor?
Well, we talked about what happens when you stay out on wet tires on a dry racetrack. And take a look at the tread here. We've got this graining on the edge, but also signs of starting to blister here. That's not a groove. That's not supposed to be there. So these rain tires have really worn out. Caution, guys.
Caution number 4. This for Ryan Truex in the 11.
One more than 77.
Oh, was that 77 I heard?
There's a 77. He's just hanging out right here. Got out there a little bit wide.
Hold it, brake, 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 brake.
They're telling him one more of the 77. There's the car
the
they're
wall
waiting
so I
on.
can't see if you can get it moving.
You're right. I heard 77, but that was his hole to rejoin the racetrack.
Yeah. You know, the track does have a dry line, but it is still dirty and nasty outside of that line, and he just missed the exit of the S's a little bit, got a bit wide into some of the wetter part of the racetrack.
All good.
All good, buddy. Just re-rack them. Number 11, still going.
Let's just take a little bit of a time out here and kind of reset where the world is after all of this, right? So we have Gibbs leading, SVG second, Bell third. They're basically heads up, right? They're all on slicks. They're all on the similar fuel loads. In fourth is Cindric. Cindric is on slicks, has yet to come to pit road. I mean, what this young man did in the wet on slick tires should be applauded. He has kept his team in. Now, he's going to have to put some fuel in at some point. Then you have Custer, Bowman, Byron, Ty Dillon, once again, running great in this 10 car. All of those guys are in the same situation on slick tires. So the field, other than Cindric, is pretty well reset after the chaotic start.
Brad Keselowski in the top 10. He's never won on a road course. I apologize for not saying it yet. Happy Father's Day to everyone. And we've had some great father-son combinations over the years in NASCAR, the Pettys, the Jarretts. There you are, Dale.
Yeah.
Love it. Chase
Elliott.
and Bill. And the next generation.
That's right.
Kyle and Brexton.
I don't think it's going to be long either. As soon as Brexton is eligible, we're going to see him.
Maybe I should put generation with quotes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of a little bit of a intersection right here. Most teams were trying to get to maybe a couple laps to go on the stage to come to pit road. This might be a little too early as we see the leaders stay out. They're going to hold that track position, but I don't think everyone is. I think some cars are going to pit right here, fill it up, put some fresh tires on, and then wait and see what happens at the end of the stage. Kim.
Yeah, Cole Custer, one of those cars coming down. He said the car is good, center and corner off. He was battling a little loose earlier, so they will put fresh tires on this as well as fuel. Marty.
Ryan Preece coming down pit road. He and Derek Finley continuing to show that they are being aggressive when it comes to pit calls. Here he comes down, and they gained some spots. So his thought here is that, hey, let's put some fresher tires on. Maybe we can gain some track position when everybody else short stage 2, and maybe once again get some stage points there. Also, A.J. Allmendinger coming down pit road as well, and they did a pretty good job after all the damage they sustained earlier on. Dinger will pit here as well in stage 2.
What about the day for Collick? We've sold Ty Dillon, Ryan, who's been outstanding, a lot of time in the top 10, but Marty mentioned it there. Damage for A.J. Allmendinger. They've kept themselves in it, done the damage repair, and you know, all you have to do is give him a shot at a road course, and he'll be a player already.
I got to know what spot. I mean, obviously, it's been so far back, it hadn't mattered yet, but give me an idea what spot I'm in.
Already saving fuel here under these cautions.
We've talked so much about tires wet and dry, so now that everybody's on dry, I want to go back. You know, Kyle Larson told Carl Corey on the pre-race stage that he said about 12 or 13 laps a switch goes off, and not in a good way, right? The tires kind of lose a little grip, then you get to double digits, and the rear tires just seem to go away. They start slipping and sliding. So now that we're at a more traditional track surface, it's going to be interesting to see these cars that have, you know, high single digits on their tires already, how long the grip stays as they try to chase down this stage win.
Again, so many curiosities about this race. Let's go to Marty.
Let's chat with Kyle Busch out of the Infield Care Center. They tried to make repairs to your car, but man, this has been a chaotic race, Kyle. What happened when your spin?
Just in the rain, and I went down into 11 and got on the brakes pretty hard, and everything was fine. Everything was comfortable, stopped really good, and I'm like, okay, I can be a little bit more aggressive this time. Getting back into 1 and went to I think the 10 marker. If there's a 10 marker, it's the bridge. And we've been going much past the bridge, you know, all day on dries, and so wet, you know, I figured it's going to be fine. And as soon as I went to the brakes, it was just on ice, and I was just sliding. And so about a second and a half or so, I was just trying to figure out which direction to go. And then I was like, I got to turn this thing around backwards because I'm going to nail some people. So hate it for all those that were involved in my mishap there. And hate it for Lucas Oil and, of course, RCR, ECR, the guys. I mean, car yesterday in qualifying was really good. Felt like we were going to be really sporty in the dry. I hate that the rain came, and now it's nice and dry. So just have to go fight for more points in another week.
All right, we'll see you in Pocono.
Been a tough year for them, but he was right on top of the cut line coming into this race. Going to lose a lot of points, but I don't count him out. Kyle Busch, with his back against the wall, is a dangerous guy. Be fun to watch him over the next 10 races, try to make a charge to the playoffs.
I was so excited about him today because of how good he was on the road course earlier this year at Circuit of the Americas. Came in tied at the cut as we talk about where he was. Now 44 below. Long way to go with what will be 10 races remaining when we go green in Pocono next weekend.
You know, we could, you know, I know it's early for some to think that points are worth counting now, but you better start in Daytona because every point we have seen, you know, making the playoffs and being eliminated come down to just a handful.
Front row, Gibbs, Van Gisbergen. Behind him, Bell and Cindric on those old tires. We're turning them loose one more time here in Mexico City.
These restarts are going to get more aggressive as we get closer to the finish of this race, and you can see it 3 wide. Smoke coming off the tires. See Bell with a lockup.
Look at the Hendrick teammates. You got Byron there and Bowman.
Oh, the 6 gonna have to skip. Yep.
Yeah, Keselowski got off track there.
Surprising. Everybody made it through. I don't know how many more times we can do this and still get the whole field through turn 1, 2, and 3 without big carnage.
Into turn 4. Bell trying to get position, crowding Cindric, but Cindric the advantage as they hit the S's.
He has to give it up. It's so tight through the S's, way tighter than it actually looks on camera. They have to almost stop into that first S to get slowed down to make the corner. And then they're flying coming out of this corner here through the bend of turn 10.
Now you have to be very careful because as the track has dried, basically, now about off track or going over the curbs. Is there any water in any of the rumble strips, like right here, driver's left, or on these interior curbs in the stadium? Can you get up on there and find a new patch of water or lose grip?
Ryan Blaney been good today. Austin Dillon having a nice afternoon. He's worked his way to the top 10. There's Chase Elliott. 7 career wins on road courses. Number 9, a player in 9th. The Prime onboard camera takes us down the long front straightaway. Almost 4,000 feet from turn 15 to turn 1.
You see with this thin air at 7,300 feet, the draft is just not in the same effect. Any other racetrack, that 9 would have pulled up to the car in front of him, Dale, but with this thin air, it's just not the advantage.
Suarez trying to get out of turn 3 here. Struggled just a little bit right there. Probably under the defense here in the braking zone of turn 4.
Another car off track. The 22 of Logano goes driver's left, misses turn 4, gets it over to the pavement and rejoins.
4 and 11 have been the real popular spots this weekend when you talk about drivers missing the mark and leaving the racetrack.
Gibbs has been pretty comfortable as far as the lead goes throughout most of the race, but now here we are. Shane about a half a second back, putting the pressure on.
Gibbs has led the most laps today. When he comes by next time around, it'll be 17 out front.
Every time he comes out of a corner onto the straightaway, looks in the mirror and sees he made any difference. Did I get away? Did I pull away? Did I do a good job? Do I need to change what I'm doing? Right now, he's holding his own. Really impressed with Ty Gibbs. And Joe Gibbs Racing to give him this kind of a race car. What an incredibly quick race car.
Talk about momentum in racing. The carryover from last week, best run of the year, 3rd at Michigan. Kind of expected there because that's a track that's been so good to him. And a noted road racer. 12 wins in the Xfinity Series. 4 of those have come on the road. Here's Kim.
Yeah, Ty Gibbs out at the point. Their team was very confident in their driver's ability, especially at road courses, saying he's one of the most aggressive drivers that suits you at this style of course. And on top of that, he knows the track limits as well as having car control. Right now, though, the spotters tell him when he tries to cross over, protect the inside, that he is SVG, Marty.
SVG sitting in 2nd, and he said, man, that 54 is good. I don't have what he has. He told his crew chief, Stephen Dorian, I just need a little more overall grip, but the long run seemed to favor SVG just a little bit, Trevor.
Yeah, how about the drive by Austin Cindric, guys, and the guts of Brian Wilson to stick with the plan, even when they fell all the way back to 31st early in this race. Right now, Austin Cindric still in 4th place. But, guys, he's going to have to short pit this stage because of fuel. He's the only guy on those beginning tires of the race. We thought fall-off would be instrumental for these guys. Does this change the strategy at all, Steve, if we get a late caution in this race, seeing Austin Cindric battle with these old tires?
That's the one thing I do think it may shift, right? He is on the much older tires, and he is holding on. Now, I do think now that the rain is gone that the wear will get worse on these tires, but it is definitely not as bad. We saw nearly 2 seconds of fall off in practice, and Cindric is keeping up fine on nearly 35-lap tires right now.
You know, I talked to Brian Wilson on Friday prior to practice, his crew chief. And Brian, you know, was concerned about how everything was going to break down this weekend, as all the crew chiefs were. But when we saw him prior to qualifying yesterday, they had a lot of optimism because of how things went in practice for everybody at Team Penske. And despite the fact that everything got out of balance early in this race, the 2 team winners at Talladega earlier this year hanging right in there. He's 4th behind Bell and right in front of Byron.
Dale, we talked a lot about drivers and how they do their work. It's not a surprise to me that they feel that 88 might be better in the long run. You talked about using the clutch some in practice and qualifying and how he uses it like a valve to kind of take away some of when the rears lack grip in braking and even in lateral, he could use that clutch some. I would imagine that's a bigger advantage on older tires when the grip is lower.
Yeah, in the braking zone, when the rear tires are trying to lock up, you can use that clutch, or he will use the clutch as a bit of a valve to sort of allow that rear tire to grip and not lock up. It's, you know, we talk about heel and toe, where he'll use his left foot and his right foot on all 3 pedals. This is Cindric that we're riding on board with.
And the clutch pedal over here, he's not doing anything with the clutch pedal, right? Like, he's not even considering the clutch.
SVG uses the clutch the same way he uses the gas and the brake. It's a valve to him, not a switch, not just something to get the car moving. He'll actually use the clutch and use the clutch and have the clutch engaged and actually release the clutch on corner entry to actually help turn the car, pitch the car. He'll actually even do that on high-speed corners like the S's. Use the clutch a little bit to help the front tires or the rear tires follow the fronts. And that will show up later in the race. We got a left front tire blown on the 43, probably slid that one too many times and flat spotted that left front tire for Eric Jones, so he comes to pit road.
I saw the same thing out of Bell. He had slid in that right front 2 or 3 times. I'm waiting to see if that thing makes it to the pit stop.
Yep. So to your point, I think SVG can't match the 54 Gibbs on new tires straight up. But over the course of the run, it does this, you know, this ability that only SVG has. No one else in the field does this with the clutch pedal. Will that allow him to close the gap?
Ty Gibbs, the race leader, 62 to go overall. Take these comedies out for a spin. Watch Will Ferrell and Anchorman, the legend of Ron Burgundy. You're cordially invited. And Talladega Nights, the ballad of Ricky Bobby, Full Throttle Funny on Prime Video.
Had an issue with Mike McDowell on the racetrack. He kind of gets forced wide here by the 35 of Herbst. Does a little 4-wheel drift. He doesn't gain anything from that, so NASCAR did not penalize him or force him to the joker lane. Sometimes if you make an advance or something like that, NASCAR will make you do a park in the joker lane. Then the 9 of Chase Elliott. Watch this. Bam. Blaney gets the 10 of Ty Dillon, and then Ty thinks it's over with, and here comes the 9. A nice little door slap.
What did you say on that when Chase drove into the corner.
He's entered the chat there. Trevor.
2 cars finally hitting pit road, boys. Yes, sir, he is. He's coming in to get 4 tires here. They're putting on slicks on the 2. I'm sure that's a relief for Austin Cindric, who had gone 41 laps on that set. 10 car, Ty Dillon coming down as well. We saw him with that contact. They're going to go ahead and flip this stage as well. A great day for them so far, managing that top 10 running position most of the day.
You said it, management, and that's what it's all about. You have to have a good car, but you have to avoid mistakes and manage the race. These teams doing the best they can today.
Yeah, Ty Dillon's done a good job. Just he's a frustrating kind of guy out on the racetrack. Runs hard, always never really going to give anything to you. And this has been the kind of a chaotic race where he can benefit and take advantage, where a lot of other people struggle and have problems. He's done a good job. Was watch the battle for the lead here. Shane's just kind of hanging around. See the back of that 54 moving around a little bit under braking.
Yeah, these tires are starting to age. The grip's going away.
The other thing that SVG does, and not a lot of cars do, is you see the 54 miss the corner a little bit, is he treats every corner differently in terms of brake balance. Each corner is going to have a different brake balance specifically to what he wants. He's changing that multiple times throughout the lap. I mean, when I raced, and a lot of people raced back 10, 20 years ago, we never touched the valve at all during the lap, Marty.
Junior, normally you would see the leaders come here and short pit here at the end of stage 2. But Stephen Dorian just told the 88 of Shane Van Gisbergen, we think rain is coming, so they're not going to make this move, Trevor, like the 9 is making.
Yeah, the 9 car coming down to get 4 tires as well. Chase has been fighting tight on the right-handers. We saw him slide up into the 10 car in the right-hander in turn 4 there, Kim.
You see William Byron, bottom of your screen, that blue 24. He said I was starting to fade a little on those older tires, also a little tight on the right-handers.
Josh Berry also making the move to come down pit road and flip this stage in the Wood Brothers Ford. So these guys making the decision to pit here. Everyone will have to pit one more time before the end of the race, Kim.
22 finishing up service there. Not a lot of feedback on the handling of that race car, but they were looking for track position. This was their option here to flip it.
The lead has tightened up dramatically. SVG is there. Now these leaders have the opportunity to pit this next time by, because they will close pit road at the start-finish line, so they could pit if they choose. We heard Marty say they think rain is coming. The 88 so good on old tires.
Fun to watch these two battle at the front, off of turn 11, into the stadium section. Ty Gibbs leading Shane Van Gisbergen. Both qualified in a good position, had good cars in practice, and now they battle for the race lead.
Oh,
and Ty Gibbs,
stay out.
Yeah, 88 stays out. Ty Gibbs says, I'm going to pit with 2 to go to the stage.
I like the 54's call. Weather may be in the area, but I like the 54 sticking with the plan. Let's get a brand new set of slicks on that thing, Kim.
Yeah, they did not want to ride out through the stage either, did not want to get buried if they stayed out. Just a little bit of spotter coaching for Ty Gibbs. They said a little more roll speed and wrap in 4, and you're losing time on 8, 9, and 10. Ty, though, has not complained about the race car, looking for his first Cup Series win.
SVG staying on the racetrack. I know this guy is incredible. He's an alien. He's unlike anybody else out there on these road courses. The Stage 2 winner in the 18 road course races the Next Gen has run has only won twice. He will have some strong odds to overcome to be able to win this stage and then drive through the field, who's basically going to start in front of him once we cycle through this stage, unless he's to stay out on the racetrack and try to pit later in the stage 3. That could be the move.
And at this point, you know, I think he's gonna, yeah, I mean, he's hoping for rain, or he's gonna have to just stay out until he's in the final pit window. But if rain doesn't come, this is a really tall task. I think that's really the only, not the only, but that's his best chance for this strategy to work out.
Yeah, Stephen Dorian just told Shane Van Gisbergen, we decided that at the last minute. We decided that we think the rain is close enough. And when he asked SVG, hey, is this okay, this move, before he had the opportunity to come to pit road, SVG said, quote, easy.
Well, we'll see how good of a weatherman the crew chief is.
It also makes me...
some view on this lap, and then hard save once you cross the line for the stage.
It also makes me wonder if he had a little bit in his pocket sitting there behind that 54 car this entire stage. That's a smart racer, not pushing the car harder than you have to. He knows the payout window is not till later today.
Well, he checks every box at this style of racing. You know what I mean? He understands the mental process of doing it, not just the physical execution on track. Over to turn 4. Nearly a 4-second advantage for Van Gisbergen over second place Christopher Bell. Bowman up there needs points. Came in 13 above the cut line. Going to get some here. McDowell could use them. He's in 5th. Busher, another guy that needs stage points. A lot of drivers going to collect here at the end of stage 2.
Ty Gibbs now has made his pit stop. He's rejoined the racetrack. He's in the 21st position, so really in a really good spot. And everyone in front of him is older tires and lower on fuel. We'll see a bunch of guys pit when this caution comes out for the stage, I imagine. You see some clear track for Gibbs. So I imagine he's going to save a little bit of gas and not abuse those tires, much like the 88's doing.
It's funny when you said he's going to save gas. I thought you were going to say he's going to save some tire here, right, in anticipation of the run that's coming when we wrap this stage, and he's obviously going to stay on track. Here comes Shane Van Gisbergen, opening stage today. Went to Ryan Preece. Stage 2, going to go to the driver from Auckland, New Zealand, 36 years old and searching his second career victory at the Cup level. Shane Van Gisbergen going to take stage 2 in Mexico City.
Shut the engine off. Coast down the front straightaway, pick up the pace car.
8 points for Bowman is big. 6 for McDowell. Be a nice payoff coming from below the cut line. Dillon doing good things. Talk about Busher and his relationship with the cut line coming in. Last driver to get a point, the fan favorite, Daniel Suarez. They're out in full force today and being entertained despite a little rain, 2 stages down. Stage 2 complete at Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez. And this place named after the Rodriguez brothers, who meant so much to racing here in Mexico. Pedro, 2-time Formula One winner, first Mexican ever to win an F1 race. And his brother Ricardo, the youngest driver ever to start a Formula One race at 19 years old. That happened in 1961 in Italy. a record that held until 1980. And there's the statue honoring what they have meant, and this place appropriately named. Awesome to see the recognition. It's been coming all weekend long. And the fans have been outstanding. The passion and seeing them in the garage, interacting with everyone here. Had a great day yesterday when Suarez got the win. It was really neat. It's been an awesome weekend.
It was fun to go down in that stadium. That's where they parked the cars after that win yesterday for the Xfinity race and had a podium. And the energy and excitement, obviously, around Daniel's win was a lot of fun to be a part of. Daniel riding on board here.
Still in the mix. 10th. Last on pit road, lap 28. A lot of racing. I mean, we haven't even got to halfway in this race, and we have had storylines for storylines. So a lot yet to be decided.
I feel like yesterday for him, he was making noise all day long because he comes from the back in a backup car. So you can't really get there quietly. Today, after qualifying 10th, he really has been fairly quiet. But when you're quiet at a road course, if you can stay in the game, that's a very good thing.
Well, we are also getting into this third stage, and that's where chaos starts to tend to pop up in those, those restarts down into turn 1. Trying to survive that is going to be what everybody's going to focus on as a driver for the remainder of this race.
And add the drops that you saw on that roof camera to the complexity of the strategies. We're going to see right here the front 3 stay out. Blaney, though, comes to pit road. It's been a very messy pit strategy day to try to follow, Kim.
Absolutely, it was interesting for the guys that had tires on the wall. That we've seen a mix of slicks and wets, but we saw those first 3 stay out. Here comes Ryan Blaney, and they will put slicks on Ryan's car. Trevor.
Yeah, Austin Dillon coming down. Same thing, Kim, going to slicks for them. Good day for Austin Dillon, working his way into the top 10 there with those guys pitting, got some stage points.
Trevor, it's been a frustrating day for A.J. Allmendinger, still trying to fight through that damage they suffered earlier in the race. They've had some speed in the car despite all of this damage you see on the 16 car, but A.J. has been quite frustrated after that. Real quick on the 88 and their decision, tip of the cap to Stephen Dorian. It is starting to sprinkle here on pit road. He told Shane Van Gisbergen there is heavier rain coming in 15 minutes, but if it stays dry, their plan, Steve, run all the way to lap 62, pit there, and that gets them to the end of the race.
I like the call, I like the gamble. My concern is when they pit at 62, they're going to need a lot of fuel. We'll have to see how that plays out and if the weather comes.
Make sure you check out Prime's exclusive in-race feature, Key Moments, during today's broadcast by clicking down on your remote. It's the easiest way to catch up on race highlights and flag changes as they happen. And if you're ever late to NASCAR on Prime, we've got you covered with Rapid Recap, where you can see all key race moments in 2 minutes or less. Here's Danielle.
Double A, this thing is getting good. We have split strategies for the leaders. Ty Gibbs ducked to pit road. SVG stayed out. And oh, by the way, it's starting to rain again, Corey.
I don't know what is going on, because this really was a two-horse race between the 54 and the 88. Dale mentioned earlier about just SVG's confidence and road courses. He's moving the brake bias multiple times a lap. And when all these other guys are nervous about wets and dries, SVG's taking this thing nice and calm, Carl.
Yeah, and you guys are doing such a good job up in the booth describing this messy thing. The only thing I can add is when we watched the cars here, when Shane was out front in control, his car was smoother than everyone else. When he was chasing down the 54, they were both wiggling quite a bit. I think the effort level is picking up through the day. Very impressed with Ty Gibbs.
He's good on a long run. Now with the rain, strategy, does it go out the window? Who do you like here? Who does this favor? By the way, Suarez, the hometown hero, is running 10th.
I don't know. I don't know. I think the 88's still in control of the race for now. We'll see, because it's trying to rain a little bit, then it stopped, and it's not raining right now, so who knows what's going to happen.
I'm so glad we've got a crew chief in the booth. This is great.
Steve Letarte will pay you double at the end of the day for all your efforts. By the way, earlier in the race when it was raining, SVG was a second a lap faster than the rest of the field.
For the record, Steve's not sure what's happening either.
I was going to say, best part about doing TV is you don't even really have to be right on which strategy is, and that's really the surprise move of the race for me.
Yeah, it's our IHOP surprise move of the race, Steve.
It was split decision. You heard Danielle mention it. 54, Ty Gibbs comes to pit road. The 88 stays on the racetrack, and then even with the second opportunity to pit under the end of the stage, 88 says, nope, I'm sticking to my guns. You see Blaney and others come, so SVG gets the surprise move of the race. Sticking to this strategy, gambling on the weather.
Got the WNBA on Prime. A little shot fake there on what's happening strategy-wise on the track. About to hit the halfway point here as we prepare for the final stage. Front row, Shane Van Gisbergen, Christopher Bell. They have combined for 4 wins on the road in NASCAR's top level of competition. Bowman McDowell right behind them.
Yeah, there's a lot of different tire strategies on the racetrack. So obviously the front row on the older tires, newest tires, probably back in 15th, 16th place. So a lot of disparity in tire and speed and grip throughout the field. That should give them an opportunity to get away here.
And that disagreement's going to roll down into turn 1 right here. It's been at least 3 wide, 3 or 4 rows.
Oh, yes. I was going to say, what are we going to set the over-under on how many we go wide into turn 1? Restart final stage, Mexico City. Bell getting after it, outside lane, opens the door. Maybe down to the inside, we'll see. Van Gisbergen covers.
He tried a little side draft there, the 20 to even it back out here into the braking zone.
Riley Herbst making a play.
Oh, the 88 sliding a little bit of right front lockup. He's going to miss the corner. 71, McDowell really missed the corner. He's going to come back on the track, see what NASCAR thinks about that. The 19 at Briscoe as well back there. The 22, several other cars.
So the rule is if you're forced off at the track but you don't gain any advantage, they'll let you blend back on. I think they're going to be very curious to see where this 71 blends and feels. If he gives enough back, that's up to NASCAR to decide. They'll have to let us know. If it is a penalty, there's a joker lap where you'll have to get offline and do a stop and go.
The back and forth between Van Gisbergen and Bell at the front. For now, it's the 20 on point as we hit the S's. Bowman up to 3rd.
Give Christopher Bell a ton of credit for being able to get down into the braking zone to turn 1. Be able to take the lead away from this 88, and also SVG sliding that right front tire. That's a concern as we get further into this stint. How much further he goes on this set of tires? Will he have trouble in the braking zone to be able to get the performance he needs with that flat spotted right front?
Chris Buescher had that early situation on the slicks in the
we got one backwards. We got one backwards over there. The one car of Chastain. He gets turned around the tail of the field.
And NASCAR confirmed everybody that got shoved off course or went off course all blended and gave back positions. No gains, no penalties. Mini lap.
You saw McDowell, when he came back on, turn down the aggression level to make sure he didn't advance his position, but he's trying to advance it now. 71 out of line, looking to get there inside of Bowman to turn 1.
Now, let me just say, I like that level of officiating. We shouldn't have these guys get shoved off line to have to come down pit road and give up 45 seconds. If they can find their spot back in line and not affect the race, that's what it is. Let's see what happens in Chastain in the stadium.
Just a lot of cars getting nose to tail there, just not enough room. Everybody gets kind of run over there in that corner. Here's the restart. The 88 missing the corner, sliding the right front tire. Christopher Bell puts himself in position through the next series of corners to be able to take the lead away.
Yeah, you saw right there was contact with the 77 that got him loose, or the 71.
Two left.
Look at this. My gosh.
So much going on. It's chaos, and this is just going to get worse if we get more restart. Look at everybody's running into everybody here.
2 left. What's the 19?
There's really, I mean, you can't even get mad at it. You kind of got to know it's coming. Here's that 88 car locking up.
Middle of 3.
71 saying, all right, we're going this way.
2. 35 knocked us off again.
And he's careful to go back to throttle. He knows he can't take the lead there. He knows he has to give that back.
And you see the shot right there in the rear bumper, which is why McDowell ended up over there.
Yep.
It wasn't my choice.
Smart of him, though, to give it back because he doesn't want NASCAR to make him stop in the Joker lane. That's a big penalty to have to serve with the field so bunched up.
These two racing for third, really getting after it.
Oh,
McDowell and Bowman as Stenhouse goes for a ride.
Come on, buddy, come on.
Get her fired up here.
Doesn't want to fire.
There it goes. Nope. He's got her going now, NASCAR. Holding on to that yellow flag. Hoping he'll get it going. We got a good battle right here. Riley Herbst, who had a really good qualifying effort in this 35, still battling up here in the top 10.
That's what happened to 47.
Oh, this Keselowski.
He got up over the curb and just hooked the 47.
This car's got some damage through that.
I thought he was going to rebound and collect Brad, but the 6 able to snake through there. You talked about Riley Herbst. He was great in qualifying, as you said, but they've done a great job in the race today as well. 7th right now, and back behind him, I mean, there is pushing and shoving going on. 60 is Ryan Preece. 41 is Cole Custer. And Ty Gibbs is there as well.
Yeah, the man that's been pretty much in control of most of this race, Ty Gibbs, trying to work his way through this traffic. He's not going to give Preece much room right there in the lead. We've got battles everywhere.
Side by side out of the stadium. Here's Van Gisbergen.
Look at the beating and banging.
Muscle up. 88 going to lead this lap as they come back down the front straightaway. Inside of 50 laps to go in the race.
That gas for the cars behind you.
And Christopher Bell, he's in a position to, he's going to fade low here. I don't know if he can outbrake Shane into the corner.
Some of that is just get some air to the brakes, air to the engine. When you follow in line at these high altitudes, chokes the engines off, smokes the brakes. So some is just old school speedway racing. Remember, just poking out and getting a little air.
That's right. Watching Shane go through there, it's so awesome to see just how good he is. Here's the lead change as the 20 gets a little wide out of turn 11. Shane's going to dive down into the corner and force the position.
It's a slick move, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're really nothing the 20 can do. I mean, you can't go into that corner shallow and defend it every single time. You have to take a good arc to make that corner. That allows Shane just to force the pass.
In the knowledge of the track, to understand the line I need to take now to make sure I'm in the preferred position going to the next turn. He managed that so well, coming from 11 through the stadium and then ultimately through 14 and 15, and now he's starting to stretch it just a little bit.
Remember, we showed you the surprising move with the 88 staying out, and the 54 will look on the left-hand side, the 54 up to 7th, and what matters is that gap, 6.3 seconds back. The 88 will have to have a longer pit stop for fuel, the 54 a shorter pit stop. So right now, Ty Gibbs is absolutely on the whip, trying to get this thing forward, trying to get as many positions as he can.
So you were talking during NASCAR Live how you coach your driver. You telling Ty, be patient here, or just get after it?
Okay. Go time. If you want to win your first race after 102 starts, now's the time. You got to find up some time.
You give me a 22-year-old that's playing aggressive and his name is Gibbs, I'll take that. Look at this. Ryan Blaney getting squeezed. We're back in a moment. 46 laps to go in Mexico City. A Chevy is leading. So with that, we get our Chevy team update. Shane Van Gisbergen, Michael McDowell, top 5. Alex Bowman having a good day.
Ty Dillon continues to impress up inside the top 15.
14th, and that's after they made a pit stop back at lap 41. So when you look at the strategy side of things, maybe they'll require less fuel, put themselves in a very good position to maintain track position.
Going to see a little issue for the 77 of Hocevar. He's going to miss turn 4, get off into the grass here, spin out. He'll get it righted and going again. And then the 11 right there as well, backing it into the wall. And in his frustration, struggled to get the car righted, spun it out again, but a little contact with Chastain. This is the time of the race where these little things start to happen.
I was just going to say that. We've reached that stage of the race.
The drivers stop giving, and they start taking. It's all take. That little situation right there, Chastain would have let him go. They would have not wrecked in that first stage. That's over with in this third stage.
Don't look now, but the 19 of Briscoe up to 12th. This has been a lap down, caught up in a wreck. They had to take the lap back after a fueling infraction. And here he is, working his way back to the front.
Oh, he's there with him.
60 of
Briscoe's wide, and Briscoe under attack. Ty Dillon's there. He gets shoved wide into the paint. Stadium area. Eric Jones coming through. His teammates there. John Hunter Nemechek. No holds barred racing in Mexico City.
Dale, you said it. We are in the third period of the hockey match right here. Everything has turned into a fight.
The 12 of Blaney's going to try to get two for one here. He's trying to get back to the 43 of Eric Jones so he can deliver some payback from what happened earlier there. Ty Gibbs continues his climb through the field, passing Bowman down there in turn 1 as we get back to this craziness in the middle of the field.
Byron out of line. He's got Gibbs in his Dillon in his sights.
All right, where should we start? Let's start with Briscoe beating and banging with the 41.
Yeah, just arguing back and forth over positions. Hey, you ran into me, I'll run into you. I'm going to run you wide, you ran me wide. And then the 60 got really lucky down here. I thought he's going to clip the tire barrier and send himself nose first in. Gets away, very lucky right there without much issue. Then the 10 gets ran wide here. Ty Dillon has been kind of climbing through this pack, right? These are hard positions to get. But right here, the 19's going to ship him and cost him a few. That's really frustrating if you're Ty Dillon. You just passed a handful of these cars, and now you got to try to work back by them.
Well,
Chase just says thank you. Chase is going to take the free spot.
Well, but they're all racing from 11th on back here, and now Ty Dillon, as you said, back to 18th.
Well, remember what you asked me? This is picking up because the crew chiefs are telling the drivers, hey, we are closing in on the final stop. We're a few laps away from the final pit window opening. I need you to get me in position. We need this, we need that, right? The goal's being clear. The chaos of the wet, the chaos of everything else is behind it. And the picture is becoming clear that you need to get going if you're not in position.
That, and you're getting tired of getting run into. Even if maybe the guy that you're chasing down isn't one that hit you, you're still not going to cut him a break. And now they're really pushing the braking zone down here into turn 1. Did you see the back dancing around on that 19 car?
The Chases racing together, Briscoe and Elliott.
Chase is going to try to offset here and drive up underneath him on this acceleration to turn 4.
That was really nicely done by the 9, the way he kind of backed that corner up and turned lower, and that is a very impressive position.
Eric Jones in this 43 is impressive as well. This won't be an opportunity to make a pass here. The 19 will have the inside line. Eric's going to hang around on that right rear, though.
I didn't think that was a too wide option.
Yeah, hadn't seen that all day long, really. Now he's going the outside of this corner.
How about Eric Jones and what he's done lately with Legacy? Top 15, 4 of the last 5 races, couple of top 10s there.
Racing with anger today. As man, that move when he ran Blaney into the wall, that was a wild one. Blaney's right back here. He doesn't want to see Blaney get back to the bumper. Blaney has a pretty short fuse. He's not forgotten about that.
Byron's been very quiet. A couple of road course wins for the Charlotte, North Carolina driver. Didn't qualify great yesterday, and they've just kind of, fought the situation today.
12 is on a mission right here to get back to that 43, like you said, Dale, and it's impressive.
Yeah, I have to believe it.
Maybe he'll hopefully have calmed down before he gets there. I don't know.
Right behind Ty Dillon, you see Josh Berry having a pretty decent run for a road course for that young guy. Ty Dillon got, there's Josh Berry looking out there. Ty Dillon has ran great today. I worry though on that last, that last little shove he had down in turn 12, he did slide the tire. And that'll take away a little bit of the turn and performance in the front tire there for the remainder of this stint.
Doesn't take much, does it?
There's the 43 trying to look
Jones.
to the inside. Briscoe's going to try to shut him off there. There might be contact. Yes. Oh, and he's almost into the grass.
Jones
and
paid
here
the
comes
price.
Blaney. That's exactly what Jones didn't want. Blaney's there now. Does Blaney remember? Is he going to cut him a break? Is he calm down?
Byron gets by, and now they're nose to tail. 43, Eric Jones. 12, Ryan Blaney.
Let's see.
We're going to find out because as they head down into turn 11, the 12 is going to be there. This is why you buy a ticket in the stadium. Here comes the fight.
Well, look right in front of him. Out of position. Byron diving it into 11. Then he makes it work.
And he throws the block on the entry to 12 there to keep the 19 from going to the inside.
Jones racing, Briscoe out of the stadium. Blaney waiting in the wings. Nemechek right there behind him.
Blaney's had a chance to ship that 43 and he hasn't done it. So I think maybe he's thought, I'm cooled off. I'm just going to go up here and try to pass him. We'll see. 43 Jones is going to be tough to catch. He's actually performing pretty well over the last several laps.
I love what he's doing there. Coming off of 15, running it wide, across the rumble strips, then hammering it down the front straightaway.
You see down here on the bottom left, if you get now, we would expect you to be very close to making it to the end. I only say that because we're hearing some words from the 88 and the 20, the two leaders, that any lap they can hit pit road.
There's just been so much to watch and try to keep track of in this race.
Briscoe struggling with his car the last several laps. Blaney's going to look to the inside here. Briscoe's going to drive it down in there and try to keep the spot. Oh, a little lockup from the 12. And he gets a shot. The 19 gets turned sideways a little bit in the middle of the corner there. Blaney's like, man, you're holding me up. I need to get by you. You know you're struggling. Why did you hold me up into turn 4 and cost us all this time? Blaney's going to try to get the run here. 19 just has no drive, swinging the back all the way through the S's. Blaney to the outside. Not the preferred line. Briscoe's going to argue a little bit down here in the corner.
Back behind him, Ty Dillon making a comeback after he lost those positions. Jumps in front of the 42 of John Hunter Nemechek. Here's Marty.
Adam, to Steve's point just a moment ago, the window is now open to get to the end. The plan for Shane Van Gisbergen was to pit in 2 laps, but SVG came on the radio when Stephen Dorian told him that, and he said, hey, I'm seeing some rain on the track, so they're going to run a few extra laps here, Kim, to see what the rain does.
Well, remember, Bell was one of the first to pit during the cycle that these top 3 have. Last on lap 16, Adam the crew chief came on the radio about 2 laps ago, said, we are in our window. You need to be ready with your switches. Max Save, the crew on the wall. We expect them any minute, Trevor.
Yeah, Michael McDowell, one of those cars that's on the other strategy, pitted at lap 28 as he gets passed by Ty Gibbs, who actually has a slightly better tire advantage and fuel advantage here. We're going to see a little bit of a longer stop for the 71 than the 54 will have to do on this green flag, Kim.
And you see the 54. They had a larger window. They were the most recent on pit road, so they last stopped on 43, so they have a lot of leeway on what they can do in terms of strategy.
Absolutely, Kim. That is a big opportunity for Gibbs. He has driven all the way back up to 3rd, continues to be the fastest car on the racetrack every single lap, 5.5 seconds behind the leader. I'm not sure if they can make that all up on pit road, but he should come off of pit road right on the rear bumper of SVG. It's gonna all come down to pit stops and potential rain as we see Bell swings right. First leader to come to pit road. The 20 of Bell is gonna come get some fresh tires, Kim.
And remember, Christopher Bell was last on pit road, lap 16, so they're gonna wanna get that packed full of fuel. Christopher saying, I need more help on slower corners. Definitely losing rear grip that run. This car, though, very good on the long run. They'll take those 4 fresh Goodyear tires, 2 cans, and pack it full of fuel.
And as Kim was reporting, remember, backwards pit stops. That is clunky, it is slower. It's very easy for the driver to drive through too many boxes. These boxes are small. You saw the 20 wait on gas. That's what I'm talking about. Tires were on, waiting on fuel. I expect the 88 to also wait on gas. The 54 does not have to wait. Is that enough, though, to make up those 5 seconds?
You know, I look at drivers and where they are. Cindric back there in fourth, pitted at lap 41. Chase Elliott lap 42. Other drivers that have good track position that should not really have to wait on fuel, and that means they minimize their time and open the door to gain some position here through this cycle of stops.
And SVG, with much older tires, is just trying to maintain that gap on Gibbs. Gibbs with fresher tires can run until he's uncomfortable, right? So he can run extra laps if he needs. We'll see how much longer the 88 runs. Him and the 20 were only about a couple laps apart, so the 88's going to need fuel here pretty soon. What's making this all more complicated are the raindrops that he was reporting earlier.
Going to stay out on the racetrack this lap. Complete another one.
So the fuel economy much better than expected in the higher elevation, plus the rain and a bunch of different things working for the 88. What a battle this is going to become. And now the 20, who's already pitted, he has rejoined the pack, kind of back in the pack, back in 32nd. He just needs to use those brand new tires to try to make as much time as possible. Now, the best thing that could happen for the 20 is a yellow right now. The 20 would stay out, everyone would pit, and he'd be the leader again.
Here we are on board with Christopher Bell. Kim.
Yeah, 48 on pit road. They stayed out at the end of stage 2, originally thinking there was going to be rain, but then once they realized it was going to be clear, elected to be on the same strategy as both SVG and Christopher Bell, making one final stop. You see him right there. Alex just saying that he needs a little bit more grip. It was a little tight, Marty.
Kim, it was such a good weekend for Ryan Preece. Started second and won stage 1, but that spin a moment ago cost him 12 spots on the track. Car's been pretty good to Preece's prediction. Pitting here with 38 to go. They can make it to the end. SVG will give up the lead and pit this lap.
Preece has had a great day when you look at points. Winning that stage, we'll see what they do for the stretch run. One of those drivers that came in thinking about playoffs and all the points you need to gather to get in.
So let's just see exactly how long the 88 is in his pit box if he does in fact pit this time. You see Gibbs has knocked it down to just over 5 seconds. Got another chunk of time on the 88. Here he is, jumps onto pit road all the way around to the yellow line right there. Does a nice job getting on. Now, they will have to wait on fuel. You would love, if you're a Shane Van Gisbergen fan, you want to see a 14.5-second pit stop. You get over 14.5 seconds, there's a chance the 54 could jump you on pit road.
The other thought here, don't make mistakes. You cannot speed in this situation, Marty.
So Stephen Dorian actually wanted SVG to run a couple of more laps, but then he came back on the radio and said, I hear you, but these tires are absolutely shot. The 88 has been terrific on the long runs today. He said he needs a little bit more turn in the slower corners. And now as Steve talked about the waiting on the fuel, they jump on the hood. He's back onto the track. We'll see where he cycles out once the 54 pits.
Pretty close, or just over 15 seconds. I think this battle between the 88 and the 54 should be good. At a normal track, I think the 54 could make up a ton of time, but this backwards pit stop, it's hard to do very quickly. Now, for the 54, a caution would be the end of the day, because the 88 has enough fuel, and the 54 would still have to pit. So now, how long does Gibbs dare to stay out? We talked about this to the puppets. I know you love the puppets, Adam.
I love the puppets.
This is that window we discussed, right? Pit early, and a caution's your friend. Pit late, and you have better tires. The question is, you're in that danger zone. Does Gibbs dare stay on the racetrack knowing we have cars that have already pitted? If the yellow comes out, he will restart behind every car that's already been to pit road.
Just a few races removed from his 100th career start.
Got to stay on the racetrack, yeah. Kind of got to wonder if the must-win scenario has an effect on when they come to pit road. Will that force them to pit road sooner?
54 stays on the racetrack. We'll get a commercial in. Pit stop on the other side. We'll see who can be first off, the 54 or the 88.
You're watching NASCAR on Prime, presented by Chewy. The caution is out. The game has changed.
The game has changed. The one thing that couldn't happen for the cars who had yet to pit, specifically the 54 of Ty Gibbs, was a yellow flag. The yellow is out. 11 cars have come to pit road. They will stay out. Ty Gibbs will lose all the track position. Let's take a look exactly what brought the yellow out, Adam.
Yeah, the 77 looks like he gets turned around on the nose of the Ford Gregson, possibly. And then the car stalls. He sat there for multiple seconds trying to get that car refired. NASCAR had no choice. That's a blind corner.
And they gave it more time than even almost I was comfortable with. He sat there for quite some time.
Very generous. Yeah, they held it.
So now to just set, I mean, remember, this is Ty Gibbs, who was so frustrated last week with the fuel window. He couldn't figure out how, you know, his teammate Denny Hamlin won, and he didn't have enough gas. And now here he is. His crew chief has decided, I didn't hate the call. I know he wanted fresh tires. We laid out the risk. The risk was the yellow. The yellow has killed him. Now he'll come to pit road. Let's listen into the 54.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Well,
not ideal, but we're not out of it, buddy. We'll be coming for tires and fuel. We're inside the window here.
So I agree 100% with his crew chief. I love what he said, but right there, Tyler said, we're not out of this. 11 cars have pitted. We're going to have 35 to go. You just drove from 14th to 2nd. You have car enough to win this race. We always talk about keeping your driver plugged in. Right now, Tyler Allen, that's what he needs to do, right? Just keep his driver plugged in, knows he still has a chance to win this race.
You also can't make mistakes in this situation. Ryan Preece, too many pit boxes when he made his pit stop. We've had a little bit of everything. NASCAR Cup Series racing for the first time in Mexico City with Steve Letarte, Dale Earnhardt Jr. I'm Adam Alexander. They had closed pit road last time around, but there'll be plenty of drama when it opens, and a lot of cars will be there. That makes execution very, very difficult.
And tough. These are the shortest pit boxes on the NASCAR circuit, and only at about 26 feet long, Trevor.
Michael McDowell, one of the drivers on the bad side of the timing of that caution, coming down now to get 4 tires. They told the driver, do not wait on fuel. We're going to go on the jack. We're good on that. And then Austin Cindric, we talked earlier about the one stop that he had made to get track position. Now they debated coming down this time with looming rain in the forecast.
Ty Gibbs also on the bad side of that caution. You heard the radio transmission beforehand. Crew Chief Tyler Allen coaching him. Not ideal, but we're not out of it. Ty, though, in terms of the car, he's been silent, which usually means it's very good.
Execution is key. Can't afford a penalty here. You don't want to lose any more track position. Ty Gibbs maintains of those that made a pit stop. +2 for Chase Elliott. McDowell loses 1. Byron gains a spot. So does Blaney. Cindric going in the wrong direction. 9 drivers staying out here in this cycle as we have a caution just over 30 laps to go.
We are in store for some excitement right here.
Back down to Marty.
Adam, this fell perfectly for Shane Van Gisbergen, who is now in the lead. But after the pit stop, he radioed Stephen Dorian, his crew chief, said, I think we have a loose wheel. They have checked video here, also back at the team headquarters in Concord, North Carolina. They confirm that we got all the lug nuts tight. But twice now, since that radio transmission, SVG has said on the radio, and he's talking about it right now as well, he said it does not track right. Something does not feel right with the car. I'm going to trust you guys. All the lug nuts are tight, but something's wrong.
Wow, that's going to be stressful times for the 88. Remember, they waited on fuel, so you would think that the lug nuts should have had time to be tightened without an issue.
And now we do our credit one bank. Ones to watch. Steve?
Well, I'm looking at the driver at the 54, Ty Gibbs. 102 starts, 0 wins. Can today be the day? He has drove an impeccable race. That yellow was kind of unfortunate. He will restart about 10th, I believe, but with 33 to go, I think he has time, if he can stay clean, to take this lead and win this race.
Well, he's going to have to drive through a few guys to get there. One person who's not is Christopher Bell. He's going to be starting up toward the front on the front row here with Shane Van Gisbergen. We heard about the loose wheel possible. This is shaping up to really fall into the hands of Christopher Bell, who won at COTA earlier this year. This guy's strong on the road courses, as he's shown us everything today.
Despite the question marks and everything that Marty's talked about, I'm going with the guy out front, Shane Van Gisbergen. You know, he said to his teammate Ross Chastain, I just need to qualify well. That was Friday. He went out and delivered yesterday in qualifying, puts it on the pole. Then really, really good this afternoon. And now we get to the stretch run. He's got the track position in charge of the field. I think he can get it done, get his 2nd career win, and really upset the playoff apple cart because he's 33rd in the standings.
So let's just look at this 88 pit stop. Remember, normally loose wheels are when the jack gets dropped before wheels are tight. Left side's a little bumbling coming off, but they're both tight well before the jack man drops. You come to this side, they're waiting on gas, so while they're in a hurry, they're like at 80%. Right side's tightened. The jack is set down nice and easy, so that's not a guarantee that the wheels are tight, but I see why the team feels confident. There wasn't really any question mark about when the jack dropped, but obviously SVG is feeling something. We will see if it turns into something more than just a feeling here on this restart.
Van Gisbergen, Bell up front. Row 2, Bowman, Custer. Briscoe's up there with Buscher. That'll be 32 laps to go when we get the green.
Another wild restart. Who's going to survive it down here in 1, 2, and 3?
We're about to find out. Off we go once again in Mexico City.
Christopher Bell was able to get the lead from the last restart. Again, neck and neck with SVG down into turn 1.
Bowman out of line, looking inside a little bit there. Van Gisbergen managing nicely as he gets in. Bowman comes through. Look at Briscoe getting aggressive at the 19, and he hit the tire barrier.
Oh, the 11's almost spinning around. Truex back there, he gets straightened out.
Several drivers coming across the grass. It's just a free-for-all coming off of turn 3 here. These restarts absolutely out of control. Bell falls back to 3rd, and look who's up to 4th. John Hunter Nemechek having a day. Cole Custer is in the top 5. Some names up here late that we don't usually see. And look at Ross Chastain. He's had a lot going on today, back in the top 10.
Yeah, they chose correctly getting to pit road before that caution came out. It's allowed them to cycle forward to all the cars that had to come to pit road. Some contact right there with Chase Elliott, Briscoe. The chase is going at it. Door to door.
The chase is on.
Yeah. And they're probably loving this. You know, as long as they take care of each other, don't put each other out, that's just good, hard racing.
With Gibbs. Already 10th in the running order, staying right in the game.
He's hoping this will sort itself out. He just doesn't really know which way to go. Can he go 3 wide here? Probably not a good idea. Can I push the 9 through? Accelerates to the inside of the 19 and gets the spot.
I actually thought Ty Gibbs showed really nice patience there because that 3 wide was open, but you and I agree, Dale, very low percentage move.
It's a delicate balance.
Looks like some damage to the left front of Herbst's car. Pretty severe on the left front of that car there.
Alex Bowman, you mentioned a huge hit last week. You know, very sore. Look at this right here, 3 wide finish. You see that damage right there. You know, Bowman won Chicago last year. Kind of surprised some of us.
He will sneak up and grab you at a road course. No doubt about it, Alex Bowman. How about the guy running second, Kim?
Yeah, can't count him out. When I checked with him this morning, he had a heating pad wrapped around himself. That pain from that huge hit last weekend in Michigan going down his back, radiating through his right leg. And it actually is the positioning of the seat of the race car that causes him the most discomfort. He has worked through it throughout the course of this race. And when I talked to him, he said, you know what, our car is really good. Our car's probably better than our driver, but maybe discrediting himself a little bit, not remembering that Chicago street course win last year.
Take a look at some of the wildness on this restart down into turn 1.
Look at this mess.
Some brake lockup from someone in the middle. A lot of bumper tag. And 11 trying to spin himself out. They're not going to let him.
No, you got to keep going. I wondered who was going to be the first time to get the tires. It looked like it was the 19.
He just punted him.
Two right. 2 left. 2 right.
This is the LA. Yeah, this will be fun riding on board here to see.
Is Danny Hamlin at home like jealous or smiling with all these replays right here?
I told Chris Gale earlier today, as crew chief, we've already done the research about drivers that win a race, sit out, and win the next week. He'll be favored at Pocono as we ride with McDowell here, pushing that 11 around.
Everybody say they're checking up big there in 2. Going
It's just bumper
sideways,
cars. They're just
track.
driving through each other in the middle of the pack there. 38 has a left front tire issue. Must have had a lock up down into turn 1 that ended up blowing that left front tire. So he's going to try to work his way back to the pits. Back up front with Alex Bowman. Feeling a little bit of pressure from this 20 of Christopher Bell.
Back to Kim's report. I'm no doctor, but on Friday we saw Alex take the 3 steps out of the back of his trailer in a gingerly fashion. It was definitely, you could see he was uncomfortable. That only impresses me more, this drive that this 48's putting together. You know, if you have any sort of leg or back pain, pushing on the brake pedal, Dale, it's got to be one of the most painful things to have to do. You have to push so hard to get these things to stop.
See 2 different rules of thought on the exit of turn 11. Christopher Bell going really wide, the 88 a little more tidy. Back to the 54, who's trying to drive through the field. We know this car's capable of winning, has the speed to do it. He's kind of struggling here to try to get around Chase Elliott. Chase has had pretty good speed here late in this race in that 9 car.
They pitted on the same lap. They're under caution to Chase Elliott and Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, these passes are just not going to be easy. Everybody's on relatively similar tires. Trevor.
Yeah, we expected that 54 to drive forward, but right in front of him is Chase Elliott, who's on the same tire strategy, the newest tires in the field with that lap 67 pit stop. Ty has not been able to make up ground on this 9. We know how good he is at road courses. Think he can hang on to it in front of Ty there, guys?
Well, you got not only the 9, then probably the best guy on defense in the field, Chastain, in front of him. And then the 17 of Busher, who has the best average finish on the road courses with the next-gen car. So all these guys are going to be hard to get around, and you see the struggle. He's already sliding that left front, or that right front tire just a little bit there in the 4. He's going to need some more cautions, I'm afraid. More restarts to, oh, look at this dive by the 9 car to the inside of Chastain.
Saw the graphic, Elliott 3rd on the all-time wins list. When you talk about road course victories, behind a couple of Hall of Famers, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, and showing why, putting on a show late.
The 54 was looking low there. Chastain blocked it. What happens down here? The 54 is going to try to get to the inside.
Great job running it wide and establishing inside position, but then he gives it right back to Chastain as they exit the stadium. 54 looking again, can't get there.
Yeah, if you're going to do that move to the inside of turn 12, you kind of got to really you just drive almost through the guy, take the line away. Oh, we got another issue here with Josh Berry T-boning the 3 of Austin Dillon. They're both going to the back of the field.
This is what's so tough about racing on the road. You get to this final run, you get turned around, you lose all these positions.
So the 22, Logano misses the corner and gets into the corner of the 3 car, and Josh stops right there in his door.
Josh is thinking to himself, I'm having a clean day, and here it is, parked in front of me. That 60 that got through Ryan Preece, I know he mentioned that penalty, but that penalty, you know, it's a big points penalty to have to go to the tail end. He's only running 22nd at the moment, came in on the cut line, had such a great stage 1. We'll see if Preece can recover and try to get some points back.
Back up front, SVG still leading. Bowman trying to keep it close.
Bell hanging tight too.
Absolutely.
And that's all you can do. You talked about the 54 locking the tires up. What the 48 and the 20 have to do right here is you just can't let the 88 get out there far enough that he can cruise. You can't let him just kind of quit attacking the braking zones, take care of his tires. You got to just stay close enough that he feels like he has to push. And I know it's a tall order, but hopefully maybe try to push him into a mistake.
Harryman Brad Keselowski has to go to the Joker lane and do a stop and go for cutting the course at some point.
We were all talking about track limits when we came here for practice on Friday. It hasn't been a big topic of conversation. Riley Herbst getting turned around.
It's tough too.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I was afraid of. There's really no way to tell what's going to happen there in the 77. Oh, not those two.
Look who
not those two again.
It's Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
So this is a 24 Byron. Oh, Byron just turns him around.
Herbst was 13th.
Yeah, that was a good run for Herbst. Good qualifying run, good race today. And then, boy, that was a scary one for Ricky. He had 2 scary moments, this one and then the 77.
It was a scary one for Ricky, and I'm guessing Riley was holding his breath too when he tried to turn that thing around.
You can't wait for the whole field to go by because you're just losing positions. But how do you get turned around? Dangerous.
Michael McDowell, 71, 10th on the day, qualified 5th. Briscoe behind him. Blaney is there in the 12.
I was going to say the 12 and the 19 have a magnet today.
Yep.
And that's to your point earlier, Dale. That's where the frustration comes in. You know, you'll run the whole race, and 70% of it's around one car. You finally just get so frustrated.
It's like that old rule, right? When you have a confrontation with the driver, the next week you qualify by one another. You got to ride in the truck pre-race when you're saluting the fans.
You still see there Gibbs stuck behind Chastain right ahead of this battle. Not going anywhere. And the battle for second place getting a little tight. I thought that Bowman had closed the gap just a little bit, but over the last half a lap, he's lost quite a bit of time to the 88 of Shane Van Gisbergen.
And let's just remind everyone, Alex Bowman started in row 15, Christopher Bell row 16. So with the rain and the chaos and the strategies and all the things that happened, 88 was the pole sitter, but second, third started outside the top 30. And here they are, they've cycled their way into the picture.
But you know, something that I would add here, and we'll get to that in a moment, got a battle for position. Bell drives in, contact, can't get it. Turns 1, 2, and 3.
Bowman's just not going to be an easy pass. You know, he's got good speed. He runs really smooth, makes minimal mistakes, doesn't really beat his tires up. Christopher Bell's really punishing the braking zones, really pushing his car, sliding tires. He's beating his car up. So he needs to make the pass quickly because eventually the 48 is going to have a little bit better balance, a little more performance in the braking zone and so forth. And this pass gets harder and harder as the laps go by.
Van Gisbergen leading jumps him up, and that shifts the playoff cut line. Despite that, Alex Bowman, who came in only 13 to the good, finds himself now plus 29. Even though the cut line is moved, that team has really had a nice bounce back, and you see the live numbers here.
Yeah, Preece 28 below. Well, if the 88's not leading, Preece jumps above, right? The line moves down a slot. So that's why you just, you know, what did Buescher say this week? He feels like he has to win. This is why. Not just points. He feels that that cut line is going to continue to move with new winners.
You said something earlier this weekend, Steve, that as we go through the next 10 races and getting towards the playoffs, somebody like, you know, the 23 of Bubba Wallace could find himself right on top of the cut line before it's all said and done.
25 laps to go. Shane Van Gisbergen leading. Been a fun weekend in Mexico City. Next week off to Pocono. Triple-header weekend. Trucks on Friday. FS2, FS1 with the coverage there. CW Saturday for the Xfinity Series. Cup practice and qualifying on Prime. 12:30 Saturday. We're racing Sunday, 2 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm looking forward to next weekend, too.
I am, too. Pocono's a blast. Great racetrack. It's going to provide a lot of action all weekend long.
Cup Series racing today, presented by Chewy. 24, coming to 23 laps to go. Shane Van Gisbergen out front, Alex Bowman, Christopher Bell, John Hunter Nemechek, Chase Elliott, the top 5. Let's get some updates from pit road, starting with Kim.
Yeah, and Cole Custer running in that 6th position. When I talked to crew chief Aaron Kramer this morning, he said the car's decent in pace, but we're not thrilled with the balance. But they have used strategy to their advantage throughout the course of the race. This team has had a very challenging season, now in position for their first top 10 of the year. And Trevor, we got to remember, Cole Custer is a 2-time winner on road courses in the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
Yeah, Kim, and another good guy in the Xfinity Series on road courses has showed promise in the Cup Series as well as Chris Buescher here in the 17. Really good all weekend on the long run, but on this run, he's had to play defense, really free off of turn 3, losing a lot of time. I'm starting to feel sprinkles out here on pit road as well, Marty.
Trevor, Ross Chastain is the perfect example of how a well-timed caution at a road course can change your day. Remember, it was this stage 3, where he got spun around in the stadium section. He was 31st after that. Then they pitted at lap 63, caught the caution at the right time, and showing the speed in this one car. Chastain told me yesterday, I'm still a student when it comes to road courses, Adam. I would say that today's session has gone pretty well for that one team.
No doubt about it.
Think about the opposite. You know, Marty just talked about how far behind Chastain was. Well, Gibbs was leading when that caution came out. Pit crew did a great job. You know, was the first off pit road. It just hasn't gone anywhere in this traffic.
They're all kind of bottled up behind this 41 of Cole Custer coming into 14. Buescher would love to get this run off this corner to be able to make a pass down here in turn 1, but you just see how hard it is for them to get the power down in traffic. You got to think about the aero disadvantage to the following car. That's a bit of an oval style turn as you're throttling up.
And a huge power disadvantage. When I talked to the engine tuners and the crew chiefs, They said that we already are reduced a tremendous amount of horsepower because of the thinner air. They said when you get behind the car in front of you, because remember the air goes in that radiator inlet, they said it drops even more. So I think that's some of the reason why you see cars offset. Has nothing to do with downforce as much as it is just more power and more brake cooling. On acceleration, I would tend to lean more towards the power.
Let's see what they do down here in turn 4. All of them kind of lined up on the back bumper. This Haas, Ford, Cole Custer, just not in striking distance into turn 4. Oh, the 54 might dive out here on the 1. Into the S's.
Time to go. Can't make it happen.
It's an ambitious move and just not going to be on the right side of the line heading into the next turn. Kind of puts you on the outside of the next corner. But he's running out of options, running out of laps, running out of time.
Ambitious, maybe over opportunistic or over optimistic, I should say, is 71 of Michael McDowell is now there.
Yeah, the 54's got to go. He's got to go because of things like that. All this is checking everybody up, bringing all these other drivers like the 71 of McDowell, the 19 of Chase Briscoe and Blaney into this battle. Putting the pressure on the back bumper, that 54 in the braking zones. He has to start getting more defensive than offensive to the 1 of Chastain.
And the frustration just builds and builds the further you go back. Sense of urgency is up, 21 to go.
Chase Elliott takes over 4th position from Nemechek. 9 car running some really solid laps here late in the race.
And he escaped this mess, right? The 9 was in this mess and he got through it, and now look what he's done.
Riding on board with Chase. Coming out of turn 3, he's got a long way to go before he can get to Christopher Bell in that battle up front.
McDowell's going to try to outside through 4.
Actually loses a spot right there.
Look at Blaney close after that. He's diving up there.
So as we watch this racing back here, SVG's gone out to a 1.7 second lead. And Adam, you've been kind of pounding on this drum for the last couple weeks about the upcoming schedule and all the road courses and the variety of races we have. And we've talked what it's doing to the playoff leaderboard. Well, I mean, think about it. We're here in Mexico City, then we have Pocono, Atlanta, then we go to the streets of Chicago, the hills of Sonoma. There's a lot of different races coming up.
You got to keep Atlanta in there too. I know the road courses are a wild card because you have the AJ Allmendingers and the SVGs and so forth, but think about Atlanta as a racetrack too where somebody could sneak in and get a win that's below the cut line.
Yeah, well, I mean, Suarez, right? Here's a driver that hasn't won, must-win situation, and he won there last year. So when you look at it across the board, 9 drivers that won last season and haven't won this year. With the schedule that's coming up, anybody's guess how things will unfold down the stretch of the regular season.
Hard to believe it was only a couple years ago when SVG showed up on the scene at the streets of Chicago, and we all have seen the road course ringers come, and I absolutely didn't give the man enough credit. And then we got in the race, Dale, and we were all like, oh boy, this guy is unbelievable. He made moves in zones that we didn't think were passing zones, and then he went, street lights on. It was late in the race after a wet start, but he was on the scene. First start, first win.
And everybody said it was the perfect storm to allow him this opportunity. Nobody had been to Chicago. That was a new racetrack for all of them. Plus, it was a street course. And he has been normalized at the other road course races that we regularly go to. But as we said at the top of the show, this is a new track for everyone. And it's shown all weekend that his advantage is back. Marty.
And Junior, just think about the weekend for Shane Van Gisbergen. He was supposed to be on a flight to Mexico City from Charlotte, North Carolina on Thursday. That plane had a mechanical issue. He went back to the airport, had to leave his house at 3:30 in the morning to make a 5 a.m. flight to come to Mexico City on Friday. Barely made the practice session. And then an hour and a half before the race started today, told his crew chief, Stephen Dorian, I do not feel well. Took some medicine before the race, but I'm sure a win would cure everything. In fact, yesterday, he told me a win today would fix our entire year, and it certainly, Adam, would change the playoff picture.
Yeah, there's no doubt. With 19 to go, he's just doing exactly what he needs to do.
Think about this, right? The first international race for the Cup Series since 1958. We have Daniel Suarez win yesterday. SVG can win today. We could have all international victors, right? 2 international drivers.
But you know what makes him so attractive? is a full-time driver, and you look at the standings, you see where Van Gisbergen is and what that's done to the cut line. You know, last year he wins Rookie of the Year and wins multiple races in Xfinity. What made him attractive there is this: so many road course races on the schedule. You know you can win, you can qualify for the postseason. And we're seeing it again now this year.
And full-time matters. And in my opinion, it matters because the pit crew is used to him. He's used to the pit crew. He's used to pit entry. He's used to his crew chief. You know, his driving talent doesn't go up or down with how many times he's in this race car, but his comfort of this specific car goes up even when he's not at a road course, right? You run all the ovals, just time in the seat, time with the shifter, so it's less new, right? He runs in this car each and every week. And then Dale, like you said, now the only new thing is a road course, which I agree with you, is an advantage for the driver of the 88.
And then we get back to Alex Bowman. If you have a driver like the 88 winning and moving that cut line, Bowman, who lost a chunk of points last week with that crash at Michigan, needs this second place finish. He needs that good result today. Look at the run over the last 3 finishes, losing so many points to the cut line. This car was very comfortably in a position to make the playoffs. Now they're going to be, if they come out of here as we run right now, 30 points above the cut line. So this is critical for them to be able to hold this track position to the end of the race.
We celebrated SVG. Why not celebrate Alex Bowman? Another driver that found success a year ago, the streets of Chicago. It was an unbelievable battle in the wet. Bowman was on wets, Reddick on dries. Reddick was running him down, but he makes a mistake late in the race. Right there, just barely hits that wall. That was the difference. Bowman went on to win, secured a spot in the playoffs. It was an absolute huge win for Bowman. A lot of people had him wrote off. People didn't think he'd go back to victory lane, but this is what he does in his career. No one picks him, no one shines a light on him, yet he continues to win a race or two every year.
A quiet confidence from Alex Bowman and putting himself in a great position here, and we've talked about it after a rough slide lately. I mean, last week was what it was, but if you go back last month, 6 weeks, they've just had a lot of bad things happen, and that's why they were even a part of that bubble conversation coming into today.
You know, Adam, I have to ask, Trevor has been telling us all weekend long about the work these drivers have been doing due to these altitudes. We've been covering the issues with the car, the cooling and the downforce, but let's talk about the human aspect. Well, here we are, a 14-lap green flag run. 16 is the longest we have run. We've been in the cars now for a couple hours. You're starting, you know, that cardiovascular fitness, that drain of the high elevation, this is when added the frustration, Dale, that you keep bringing in, that Gibbs has been following this bumper for the last 10 laps. You know, all of that starts to add up. You just wonder who's going to get frustrated or who could make a mistake.
Let's go down to Kim.
John Hunter Nemechek having a great day running the 5th position, and what a rebound for him. Remember, he was spinning out earlier in the race, but right now, both solid in the top 5, no issues, good on fuel. He was told he's just trying to manage the tire fallout. And as we talk about legacy and their slow climb to get better, yes, the tools there have gotten better, but really Travis Mack has been so good for John Hunter because he doesn't overwhelm his driver with a lot of information. He tends to condense things down and give John Hunter a few select bullet points to focus on, and that is certainly paying off.
Great comeback after recording his first DNF of the year last weekend at Michigan. Prior to that, though, the team showing speed each and every week. Legacy Motor Club as an organization has made so many good strides. And from one Toyota team to another, we ride on board with Ty Gibbs, who continues to ride 9th behind Ross Chastain.
And you have to wonder at what point do they start to do something desperate in a braking zone or in a position where you typically might not see a pass. He's losing a little bit of ground to that one car through the S's. That 54 not changing directions really well through the S's. You have to wonder if maybe he slid some tires during this stint. It's actually taken away some of the turn this car has through those corners. But right here, when does somebody run out of patience and just dive bomb into this corner on the inside, just forcing a pass as we get later and later in this run?
Well, we talk about every position is a point. Well, remember, there's a point for the fastest lap. Kyle Larson got TKO'd by the 8 car, kind of in that wreck down in turn 1. Well, look at this. They've built this car, rebuilt this car, adjusted this car, keeps sending Kyle Larson out on the racetrack, and he's now run the fastest lap of the race. 39 laps off the pace, but he, at the moment, is picking up that extra point. Not sure I love that somebody could get that point 39 laps off, but hey, Kyle Larson, Cliff Daniels, they didn't make the rule. They just race within it. So I appreciate the tenacity of this 5 car, and if they get this point, who knows where this may matter in the regular season standings, Marty.
And Steve, I want to give credit to Kyle Larson for that, because once they brought the car out from the garage area, that was the first question he asked Cliff Daniels. What's the fastest lap of the day? And he's had all this clean racetrack, so that's been their focus this entire time. Hey, let's go set that fastest lap of the day, and it worked.
Well, he lost the regular season championship a year ago by 1 point, so never know when they're going to add up.
And he's chasing his teammate right now for the regular season title in 2025 as they run 62 behind William Byron. We talk about the wild card races that are coming. That's why, as you said, you want to get every point you can to keep yourself in the game. There you see those regular season standings. On board Daniel Suarez. 19th is where he is in the running order. Before we talk about today, let's go back and celebrate what happened here 24 hours ago. Just remarkable for the driver out of Monterrey, Mexico.
Yeah, this is pretty incredible. The 9 car crashed earlier in the day, and they had to go to a backup. The team pulled the backup out, worked for a couple hours in the parking lot to be able to put this car together, put it on the grid. This was the same car that Justin Allgaier had used as a backup in Chicago to run in the top 10. So the Junior Motorsports team did a good job putting a car on the racetrack that he was able to take to victory lane. As the battle for second place is now turned into a brawl between the 20 and the 48.
And how aggressive are you here if you're Alex Bowman? You know, Bell's got 3 wins, right? But if you're Bowman, you cannot afford to get spun out here and lose a bunch of positions.
Oh, watching the braking of the 48. He's getting everything he could out of the braking zone right there. You see the car kind of dancing around just a little bit. Now he's a little bit offline, so the 20 is going to be all over him until he can sort that out and get right on line. He's offline again, high here, low entry into this corner. This sets the 20 up for a pass right here to get to the inside. Now he's going to be on the outside of turn 11.
There you go, just you and him.
48's just going to let him have it. Look, the 48's probably sitting there thinking, my tires are done. I can barely hold you off. I'm going to wreck myself trying to do it. I don't want you to wreck me unintentionally. So he gives him the spot. And they have such a gap to the next car. They don't want to give up a ton of time battling each other and allow the 9 of Chase Elliott to climb into this battle.
And if you told him, okay, here's the deal, we're going to have a new winner, and you're going to gain 15 or so points on the cut line, he'd say, I'd take that too, right? Speaking of the 9, let's get an update on Chase Elliott. Trevor?
Yeah, we just came through the stadium section there, guys, and that's where Chase Elliott is losing his time. He can match Shane Van Gisbergen all the way around the track until they get to turn 11. The next time he comes by, you guys check it out. He uses all the racetrack tricks way out wide like you would do at Sonoma. That sets him up a little bit bad for his angle through 12. Loses a little bit of time through there.
On board right here, kind of this is the 5, 6, 7 combination down this straightaway. We're now heading, this is into 4, excuse me. At 2 and 3, there's so many different switchbacks, it's easy to get lost. Now we're heading into 4, that's long sweeper.
Chase likes a little diamond there. Drive that car deep into there, let it drive up. Maybe a little bit too high, but still not really trying to stay tidy into turn 4. He's trying to get straight out of turn 4 to be able to get more momentum toward the S's. He's gonna close in on the back of this 48 car quickly. Maybe run down to 20. I think he looks better than both of them at this moment.
Now we're entering the area that Trevor was just talking about.
But with the trees in the straightaway, it's so easy to confuse 10 to 11 and 3 to 4. It's what you talked about, Steve.
Yeah, he's closing in pretty quickly on the back of that 48. Being a teammate, I can't imagine that Alex will put up a big fight and slow them down. Gives him a chance maybe to go after the 20 before this is all over with. If this continues under green, realistic for the 9 car, Chase Elliott, to have a second place finish today.
Steve, you talked about mental concentration. We're in the midst of our longest green flag run of the day. This race approaching 3 hours. So you start thinking about all that. 13 to go, got a green flag feel. You just got to make sure that you're mentally in the game down the stretch.
And if you're a crew chief, you need to be asking your driver what he needs as you see McDowell drive to the inside of 54. I think Gibbs is going to look back maybe 2 weeks in a row now and ask what could have been, cars that maybe could have won the race.
We've got 13 more, bud. Give me all you got.
13 more. If the caution comes out, what do you do? right? I mean, there's 30-something cars on the lead lap. I think tires would matter. I don't know if you're 88 car, if you could pick from the lead, but somebody in the top 5 or 10 is going to come to pit road.
And that'll bring everybody behind to pit road as well.
You just got to stay in the game, you know, not just behind the wheel, but mentally as a crew chief. You just got to always be thinking, maybe it's a short run. Maybe I need to put more air in my tires. What do I need for a short run? Does my car come in? How can I help my driver? You know, there's a mental checklist that's fatiguing but required, and it just keeps looping in your mind.
But I would also say, adding on to that, the residual impact of the weekend and the travel internationally and just logistically, everything that goes into this that steals some of that mental concentration that you now have to put behind you and finish the job.
And you had to put you behind you at the green flag. That's when I joined Corey and Carl down at the desk, we talked about that. And as amazing as this trip has been, and amazing as the crowd is, at some point it has to become just a race. It can't be more than that for the competitors, because if you allow your mind to take the other things in, it's replacing something else in your focus. And this is where it kind of gets in that doldrum, right? Single file, everybody is close enough that if you make a mistake, you're going to lose a spot. And we heard Kyle Larson say how difficult this racetrack was.
Look at the top 10, and it's not just the drivers that are up there, but the organizations. Got a real nice mix. Colin, Gibbs, Hendrick, Legacy, Haas Factory Team, RFK. Michael McDowd representing Spire, rounding out the top 10. A lot of different organizations trying to put something together, finish it up in Mexico City.
Well, if you go a little bit deeper back, right, you see William Byron come right here, and then Jones, then we have the Dinger, and then this green hooded car right here, Bubba Wallace. You know, the running order is going to say 16th, but when you look at the points, 13th at plus 58 above, Cedric Logano. That's what you and I talked about, Dale. That if you move that red line up 2 or 3 spots with a couple new winners, Bubba feels like he's good in the points, but these last 12 laps at Mexico, right? Can he hold those 4 cars off? Can he save those 4 points of the guys that are behind him? Those are the difference makers when you get to the end of the regular season.
Here's the other thing I would say about that, and I'm curious to get your reaction, Dale. Today is a build-up to the schedule that's coming with the road races that are on the way. If you can do something positive here today, find some rhythm, you get in that road racing mode, and there can be some carryover when you get to Chicago, Sonoma, and on down the line.
Absolutely. Another car back there at the back of this line, the 60 Aprice right here coming into the screen. Won the first stage and had a strategy that would likely have cycled him back toward the front of the field, had a penalty late in this race, has tried to claw his way back to the back of the pack, and this is going to be one of those days where you're going to think of what might have been. They had so much speed. He talked to, the 77 off again. Priest said that he thought he could have gotten the pole. He actually slowed down on that first lap because he was catching the car in front of him too fast. And he didn't want to impede maybe the opportunity on the second lap. But he had so much speed that the first lap might have been enough for the pole. They had real good speed in that 60 car this weekend. Went out there, got the first stage, but that mistake is going to cost him a lot of points today, Marty.
Yeah, and junior credit to Derek Finley for making that call, for leaving his driver out, winning stage 1, earn those 10 stage points, and he said before the race, those might be very valuable. They will indeed be very valuable. But Steve, the biggest thing that's going to change for Ryan Priest's playoff picture is the fact that SVG is leading right now. Priest was tied at that cut line coming into this race, and if SVG hangs on right now, he's projected to be 27 below the cut line.
Yeah, and I don't believe that's the last new winner we're going to see in the regular season. So you're definitely going to have to try to continue to score some points or think a win. Let's see what happens to the 77 of Hocevar. Oh, boy, just deep into the corner.
And look who he runs into.
Please tell me it's not
the 47. These guys are going to definitely brawl.
I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
Ricky Stenhouse, I think, didn't like what happened in Nashville, but he definitely isn't going to like what's happening here. That is not going to work between the two.
That's going to definitely have some implications post-race.
Stenhouse,
implications. I like how you say that.
Stenhouse went up to Philadelphia this week to do some promotional work for the race at Dover that's coming up next month. And he was over near the statue, the Rocky statue. And it made me think about what we just saw and maybe a payoff down the road. Chastain forced out there.
Yeah, NASCAR will typically look at that and not penalize the driver that gets tagged and sort of has no option but to go that route. As long as he doesn't make a huge gain, which he doesn't.
You've got to be prepared for the unknown. Officiating unknowns have come into play here because the drivers just find some places you didn't know existed and certain things unfold on track. And NASCAR's done a nice job this weekend of buttoning everything up.
This is aggressive right here. These guys have been around each other for the last 30 laps, beating on each other through the corners. They continue.
How about the work by these teams to make sure the engine stayed full and the brakes heading into this? We thought brake fade was going to be a big situation. I'm sure the drivers are dealing with, you know, less than optimal braking, but they're doing such a great job. You can't tell by this battle that they, oh boy, oh man.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
So Ross blocked the 71 to McDowell. McDowell's like, hey, if you block, you pay. I'm going to send you into this corner. You're not going to like this. And that's what happens.
And then Briscoe's going to fill the spot to make sure. Oh no, Chastain takes a shot at Briscoe.
Yeah. It's fun. It's good racing.
For us, it is.
Yeah, I think they're having fun. I think they're probably, oh, maybe not. I don't know if Briscoe's having fun anymore.
Man, seen one on the grass there.
Chastain is so, I've never seen Chastain like so upset.
Oh man.
He's giving it everything.
Blaney right behind him is like, I want to get into this battle.
Yeah. And one person that we don't see in this battle is the 54 of Ty Gibbs continuing to fade.
Yeah, he was my one to watch, and I haven't watched him go anywhere, unfortunately.
I hate to guess, man, but I have to wonder if he slid the front tires at a couple points or during this stint, because that car just had such good performance earlier in the race, and now he seems to struggle with turn. Elliott, we talked about how he was closing in on the 48. Here's a pass for third place. Takes that away, and this 48 starting to fade a little bit. Alex needs a good result. Don't want to lose too much more track position as the laps click away. Now can Chase Elliott go get about 3 seconds to pass Christopher Bell for second. Trevor.
Now, there for a while, Chase Elliott was the fastest car on track, and you and I talked about it earlier during break that Shane Van Gisbergen might have been milking it a little bit. He might have been saving some. That last lap, he was over a second faster than second place, almost a second and a half faster than Chase Elliott with almost no fall off on that 88. I guess you were right, Dale. He was just saving some tires and brakes.
Yeah, I think that guy, you know, when you put him in a race car against the field, he's just, with his techniques and how he uses the clutch throughout the lap, is going to be better for brakes. It's going to be better on the tires. If he's got a decent race car, over the course of 40 laps, he's going to beat everybody. And that's something that he knows how to do with that clutch that no one else does. It's like learning a foreign language. Our guys that are, you know, 10, 20 years into their career, they have no real chance to be able to adapt and understand that type of method, using the clutch on corner entry and so forth.
8 laps to go. Here's Marty.
Adam, so to Trevor's point a moment ago, Steven Duran's been kind of coaching SVG on pace, and here was SVG's response to that.
Stop telling me to slow down. Just keep me concentrated.
Stop telling me to slow down. So, Steve, here's the funny part of that. His microphone was too far away, so Steven Duran did not hear that radio transmission. He said, move your mic closer, and SVG simply said, we're good, don't worry about it. That's too funny, isn't it?
And it's funny, but I understand what the crew chief's saying, because he might be thinking if the caution comes out right now, I want to stay out anyway. So I know it's great to have a 9-second lead, but we don't need a 9-second lead. Now I understand SVG's like, don't distract me. This track is so difficult. If I lose my focus or I don't drive near 100%, I get my timing and my rhythm off and I can make a mistake. So I can see both sides of the argument.
7 to go, and I've always thought that was the key element of success in road course racing, and that is understanding the balance of patience and aggression, when to go and when to put some in the tank. And as a crew chief, you can always see the big picture. A couple of good road racers here going at it. 17 is Buescher, 71 McDowell for 7th on track.
McDowell's trying to make the most of the day, doing a nice job. Relatively clean looking car versus some of the others. I mean, they all have damage.
Felt like he could win today. Qualified 5th. Great practice on Friday.
25 lap green flag run, currently the longest of the day. 7 to go. That will be the biggest test for man and machine that we've seen.
We talked about it, SVG using the heel and toe technique and basically using the clutch on downshifts. So this is in Chicago. These are the cameras we had in the car in Chicago. He no longer lets us use these cameras because he doesn't want to give this trick away. Now, drivers can learn heel and toe, right? That's not so foreign to a lot of road racers, and many of them know how to do that technique, but how he uses the clutch on the decel or entry to a corner to keep the rear tires from locking up under braking, things like that. It allows him to get into the corner maybe a little deeper, a little more under control. It also allows the car, when he releases the clutch, to turn better. It pivots and turns the car into the corner. That's something that the V8 Supercar guys, they do their entire career. So what he's learned, this technique that he's brought here, is something that only he knows. And it is an advantage. And we talk about how the 54 can match his time early on the run. So on sticker tires, these guys can compete. Over the course of the run, his technique saves brakes, saves tires. So he has better performance in the braking zones. He has more lateral grip on lap 40 than the rest of the field. That's where we see him shine. And you take him to a racetrack where nobody else has run, he's going to be faster. He's got a God-given talent. He's just going to be one of the quicker cars.
And that God-given talent should be celebrated, because it's just like when we take Kyle Larson or Tyler Reddick to Miami and they run the wall, and everybody talks about how they're just better than others at running the wall, right? This is the same idea. Each of these drivers, they've got to the top level of stock car racing because of their talent. And they're not all the same. It's not a blueprint, right? Everybody has a strength. Some have some weaknesses. This battle right here continues. Buschard loses another spot to the 19 of Briscoe.
Briscoe up to 8th. Nice late rally for a driver that was in the weeds early.
Look at this. Ty Gibbs just continues to fall, right? He's now back to 13th. William Byron's gotten by him. He is on the bumper of Chastain.
Yeah, Byron's actually going to come out of here probably with a decent result after climbing through the field here late. He's had some pretty good success. Kim, you got some on the 54?
Yeah, I think some people might be surprised that we haven't seen him make more headway like we did with Chase Elliott, but he used up those rear tires very early in this run and just so lacking complete rear grip.
Well, that answers the question on where the pace is for Ty Gibbs late in this race. One of the cars that really had as much speed, at times more speed, than Shane Van Gisbergen in the 88. Now the one car seems to be struggling. Chastain sliding that car around over the last handful of laps, starting to take its toll. And the smooth nature of the driver like William Byron, like Chase Elliott, that sort of Hendrick way, right? Alex Bowman, that's starting to pay off late in this race as they seem to have more tire, more lateral grip, more braking ability. Oh, he's really getting after it right there. Smoked that right front tire in that 24.
See a lot of battles for position. And if you're Shane Van Gisbergen, you're like, we just don't need a caution here, right, guys? You do what you got to do, but just make sure we keep things on the pavement. I do not need to see the yellow flag. Trevor?
Yeah, Steve, you always talk about the fuel tax with the puppets. Michael McDowell was one of those guys that didn't wait on fuel earlier. So on this run, he has had to manage that fuel mileage a little bit. Just on the radio, though, Travis Peterson telling him, go get that 42. Let's get a top 5. You're good on fuel now.
I was wondering, you know, his pit stop was very quick, and I thought he needed some fuel, but a great job by the driver of the 71, communicating well with his crew chief, and it's amazing how well these drivers can make up time anymore. They're so good at not just going fast, but this whole new world of fuel management that's required at basically every track we go to. Every driver has their own little system, but they're becoming very good at saving. You know, you talk about those points, McDowell's 18th where he runs currently, just 45 back. So, you know, that is with the new winner of SVG, and we showed you that.
Now you look at there on the map, doing exactly what you're doing.
Keep doing exactly what you're doing. You know, we showed the variety of racetracks coming. McDowell has to be excited. You see him reach up. That's adjusting the brake knob, probably changing the brake balance. Now he reaches down for the downshift.
I would say, though, in relation to points, they're kind of in that no man's land, which makes these races difficult, Steve, because you want to go get the points if you can. But as we talked earlier when we were going through all the strategies, you really can't chase the points and a win. And the win is it, right? That is the automatic ticket punch to the playoffs. However, you know, when you're 45 out which direction do you go? And it will become more and more clear as we get down the road, and maybe we will know when we hit Chicago and Sonoma, as Byron looks for another one, racing with Blaney in turn 4.
Yeah, he's going to get the inside here and take that spot away. Blaney's not going to argue too much as they start to go into the S's here. Blaney's like, I don't want to slow us down. I don't want to fall into the grasp of the 54 there. Real close right there for A.J. Allmendinger. Look at A.J. getting something out of this evening or this afternoon after being taken out nearly all together in that turn 1 wreck. Huge damage on the back of this race car, but real gutty performance out of the driver of this 16 car for Collick.
Gutty and showing off his talent when it comes to this style of racing. 3 career wins on the road for A.J. Allmendinger.
Oh, Chastain and Bubba, they're going to argue over this position in turn 12. Chastain's going to try to peel him off. Bubba says not so quick.
Still there?
Bubba's going to get it right here. Chastain's just starting to bleed time. The balance of that car is going away. All the drive, all the lateral grip, no rear grip in that one car.
Big for Bubba, who's 57 points above the cut line, to maintain the advantage.
Closing in on a 30-lap green flag run. The drivers are exhausted, the cars, the brakes.
I'd say everybody's pretty spent and used up about everything they got except for that guy out front. Shane Van Gisbergen out to a 15-second lead.
I mean, he's just showing off now, lap after lap, 1 second faster than the field.
I was going to say, it seems like 3 or 4 laps ago it was 9, and now he's built it up over 15 seconds.
You think about, too, it's about 8:30 over in Australia on the West Coast. They started watching this race hours ago. Much like Daniel Suarez, he has lots of people in the country of Australia that are watching him, cheering him to victory at this moment.
You heard Marty say earlier that he was reaching out to Max Verstappen to get some insight about racing in the rain. Well, maybe Max gave him some insight on racing in the dry as well. He knows how to dominate a race, and that's what SVG is doing here currently.
You know, Shane told me last year when he would go to a track for the first time when he was running in the Xfinity Series, he would always have a weekly call with Marcus Ambrose and get the lowdown on what are you thinking going to these venues. I have so much respect for a driver that performs at such a high level, that is willing to put his ego beside and say, even though I have plenty of knowledge, I want to gain a little more, and he is that guy. A very humble approach for Shane Van Gisbergen, 2 laps away from career win number 2.
I think he saw such a great opportunity for himself to win here and didn't want to leave any stone unturned. And who, you know, if you get a chance to talk to Max, who wouldn't take that opportunity? He said he didn't like the rain. We knew we might have rain today. He was seeking out more information to be able to be prepared for something like that, and it's paying off.
How about the 42 of John Hunter Nemechek? I know McDowell just got by him right there, but this 42 car, Legacy Motor Club, him and Eric Jones, I mean, I'm starting to see consistent improvement. Different track styles, different, you know, sometimes it's overall speed, sometimes it's execution. They've had their challenges, maybe with a few accidents over the year, but here he is once again running inside the top 6 with just a couple laps to go.
Custer's up there looking for his first top 10. Spire doing some good things as well in the form of Michael McDowell. Here he is through 14 and 15. You'll see the white flag this time. 1 lap to go for Shane Van Gisbergen, sponsored by Credit One Bank.
White flag right here, 1 more. No risk, take it.
Gotta be a great feeling. This is why you put a guy like this behind the wheel full-time at the Cup level, because you know he can deliver on the road, put himself in playoff position.
This will be the easiest, most ginger lap he'll run around this racetrack. Not put the car in really any kind of a situation that's going to be difficult. Have a little bit of traffic in front, but he doesn't really need to push for that.
First points-paying race for the Cup Series outside the U.S. since 1958. And an international driver in position to go get the checkered flag. SVG, 36 years old, from Auckland, New Zealand.
Had the lead late at Watkins Glen and was taken back by Chris Buescher. And I wondered if they had all caught up. Dale, you mentioned it a few times, to come to a brand new racetrack, and I think the 88 and SVG right here is kind of putting his exclamation point on. You might have caught up at certain tracks, but a track like this, he's still, without a doubt, head and shoulders above the field on just pace.
Here he is into the stadium, portion of the course for the final time. Take it slow and easy with the lap traffic. Off of turn 15. NASCAR making history. Racing in Mexico City. And the first name on the trophy is Shane Van Gisbergen.
Hell yeah, buddy. You are such a badass. Yes! Nice job, guys. That's amazing. Thank you. Awesome. Great job, team. Way to fight through that weekend.
Career win number 2. 5th driver to earn his first 2 Cup wins in inaugural races, 2023 in Chicago, and getting it done here today in the inaugural trip for the Cup Series to Mexico City. I should say he's the 5th driver to accomplish that feat at new tracks. And he entered the weekend 33rd in points, 130 below the cut line. He's now got a spot in the playoffs, the 10th driver to win this year.
How all the folks from Australia watching him run this race and win, as we see him get out, get on top of the car, and he made his name in V8 supercar racing in that country. But from New Zealand, I imagine there's plenty of people in that country as well very excited about this win for Shane.
It's been a good few weeks for Trackhouse too.
His teammate comes up, Daniel Suarez,
yesterday's winner.
A great weekend for Trackhouse.
Yeah, great weekend for Trackhouse, and you think about the last 4 weeks. Ross Chastain went to the Coke 600, and now Shane Van Gisbergen, 2 of their 3 drivers locked into a playoff position. It'll be a happy lunch in Auckland, New Zealand. It's 10:44 a.m. there now. It's a great way to celebrate lunch with a winner in Mexico City. Marty's down there for the celebration.
Welcome to the playoffs, Shane Van Gisbergen. The man from New Zealand delivers here in Mexico. You told me yesterday a win fixes our year, but you faced so much adversity this entire weekend when you think about it. The travel issues, not feeling well before the race, and then the rain today. What was the biggest challenge?
Oh, you listed them all, man. What a week. I've really enjoyed myself here. I felt pretty rubbish today. Leaking out both holes. That wasn't fun, but thank you to Safety Culture, Trackhouse, Chevy, and ECR Engines. Our car was amazing. Like, I think the 54 was close, but that last stint, man, what a pleasure just ripping lap after lap and watching them get smaller in the mirror. Unreal.
I've never heard a driver say, stop telling me to slow down. Was this maybe the best race car you've ever sat in?
Oh, it's certainly up there. I've been privileged to have some great ones in my time, but yeah, when I go slow, I just lose concentration. So I was just trying to stay in a rhythm and a routine, and Josh and Steven, they're doing a great job keeping me calm and focused, and man, that was epic.
When we were hanging out this morning, you were texting your good friend, Max Verstappen. You were texting Max Verstappen, Your talent was clear today, but did he give you any tips that wound up helping?
Yeah, a little bit in the wet, and just what lines to take and how to approach it, and yeah, what a guy. So don't know how he went today, but hopefully it went well, and hopefully I get this thing over the fence.
I hope the leg is good, because this is going to be a big kick, Shane. Shane Van Gisbergen with a special celebration, the kick of the footy into the stands, and it makes the picnic area. Congratulations, Trackhouse Racing and Shane Van Gisbergen.
That's a souvenir to take home and put on display. Outstanding for Shane Van Gisbergen.
We saw Ricky Stenhouse and Hostfart getting in it today. Let's see what happens here post-race. Ricky upset. Ricky's had enough. He's had enough.
The foundation for that laid a couple of weeks ago in Nashville, and the carryover is real. Road course racing will produce some frustrating endings. And now we head down to the stage. Danielle, Carl, and Corey.
Woo! Smells like burnt rubber down here. That was one hell of a burnout from SVG right behind us, and the rugby kick to boot. That guy from New Zealand showing Mexico how to celebrate.
Best seats in the house right here.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And to see Shane perform under pressure, I didn't realize how sick he was. Guys, he was supposed to be on this show this morning on our pre-race. He made a very good choice to, to take care of himself and do what he had to do today.
Absolutely. And what I saw about the 88 is he was in control all day. Never was that 88, was there a wheel offline? And just even when they got a little bit behind on restarts, he just kept chipping away at it. Just, I mean, he might be one of the best stock car drivers on a road course in the world. Something to watch.
And Adam Alexander pointed out the humility, right? You said, hey, Shane, it's your race to lose.
Get a little extra credit.
Still doing burnout.
Get a little extra credit burnout going on here.
Yeah. We're getting a bonus edition, guys.
That's a couple decimal.
I don't know if that's FDA approved, but I think a win takes care of whatever illness he's got. But the humility is key for a guy that can't lose the pick to win the race. Yep. All he can do is lose it. He's still calling other people, asking for advice. That is a guy that's ready to grow, and I think we're going to see a guy that grows on the ovals, and this is the starting point for maybe a great finish this season.
We already saw a little bit of an uptick in his oval performance, but this today right here hits the reset button on the 88th season. All that learning curve, this is exactly why Justin Marks started this 88 team, is for this day right here and to get that 88 team in the playoffs.
Such a good point. And there are 4 road courses in the next 9 weeks, including this. And I thought, how many are gonna go by that he doesn't win, and that pressure mounts because we know his best shot at the playoffs is to win on a road course. Boom, he comes out in the second one of the year in Mexico City and wins it.
And I think that he's the favorite to win all of them, because I just can't imagine one with more adversity than this. To show up without crew members, to barely make it here, to be sick. Trevor and I walked up in the hauler. He was asleep on the floor. I didn't realize he was coming down with something. And then just to be able to perform today, the loose wheel, possibly the rain, all the strategy. Look at him hugging his crew, all these guys. It goes back to Trackhouse, same thing they did at the 600. They work hard together. They're a team, and they've shown how to get it done.
The logistic issues just to get here, Justin Marks having to find planes at the last minute and bring guys in separate groups, and only a few on this team, only a few on that team. I mean, logistically, this was anything but easy. The adversity for Suarez on Saturday, the adversity you just described for SVG, both these guys earned these wins.
Absolutely. Gritty weekend out of Trackhouse overall, whether it was Daniel Suarez yesterday, SVG today. He almost made it look easy. I know it wasn't, but we could make a t-shirt of all his sayings from yesterday, his flying lap that he mucked up, and then we all heard what he just said in his winner's interview. To put all that aside, because it does not feel good, Carl, when it's hot and you're not feeling good and your belly's turning over upside down, and just put all that behind you and beat the field by 16 seconds is so impressive.
And don't forget, that joy that he described, the last stage of the race, being out there in front, that's one thing, okay? But in the middle of this race, watching him battle the 54 of Ty Gibbs, and we really thought it was going to come down to those two, he did such a good job of managing that battle, not making any mistakes. There was one point where he came through the stadium, he was battling someone. I said, look how much space he's giving that other car. He was making sure that that 88 car made it to the end, and that's the mark of a very experienced race car driver.
What did you make of the quote late in the race when SVG came on the radio and said, "Stop telling me to slow down"?
That's a guy who's won a lot of these races, and he probably, I don't know, you never know what he's really thinking, but he was in a rhythm that was working. He's probably so good at the big picture of how these things work. He just wanted to say, hey, leave me alone. Everything's going well. I know what I'm doing. And we're going to talk more about his crew chief, because that loose wheel thing I thought was a really cool teamwork situation. But that's SVG just being ultimately confident in the car.
And also sometimes, Carl, if they tell you to slow down, you might even start missing corners, locking tires up. He knew exactly how much tire conservation he had. He knew how to manage the race. And he never was over his skis, nor we saw him behind the 54 to finish stage 2. He even had a little bit left in the tank.
And a lot of the race fans watching right now probably have driven fast, maybe even raced something. We know what it is to run a car really hard, but Dale pointed it out somewhere in the middle of this race about tire management. And SVG was the one car that I watched go through the stadium. I was trying to tell you, Danielle, but from this
watch him.
You could see that car was so glass smooth when he was out front. He was treating those tires like they were his best friends, and he just had to take care of them. And they ended up, they were at the end of the race.
We're going to take a photo with the top 3 cars, SVG, Seabell, and Chase Elliott. Then a podium celebration. We'll have 2 national anthems, the United States and his home country of New Zealand. A winner in Mexico. It's like the United Nations around here. We're making history in NASCAR. Keep it right here on Amazon Prime. Full hour post-race show coming up right on the other side of this break.
The top of the mountain, climbed all the way up and never looked down. If the road wasn't rough, we might not have found the blood and some guts and thousands of hours. We welcome you now to our arena. If you don't know right now, it's hard to beat us. You can tell by our demeanor how hard we leaning. You will remember when you see it in lights. We are the champions. We are the champions. We will fight through the pain. We'll be legends tonight. We are the champions. We are the champions.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our fans for your support, and we hope you enjoy